From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American...
Kneel. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop up your head.
And welcome to the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Colin.
This is Abib.
I
haven't done any fake names in a while, so
Well, that's good. We haven't had that character ever. Kind of lost interest.
Well, the thing is, it's so they have all these, and I think it's radio telescopes. So
Yeah.
it's not exactly like they're not even like taking a picture. It's just kind of it's interpreted data.
Yes.
And so like it takes thousands of data, and then they have a model of like this is what we think a black hole is.
yeah.
And so it runs through like all these picture configurations, and basically it's choosing from all these different data points. They're guessing at what this would actually look like.
Yeah.
Which kind of seems like, so it could all be bullshit, or a really good guess.
So a non-scientific way of putting that would be, I'm far across the room and through a door I hear a woman speak and I keep hearing her from different angles and I guess what she looks like.
Essentially.
Like,
I'm going to bounce sound off something, and where there is an absence of sound, I'm going to, put that all together and assume what this looks like.
And there's some like really cool stuff. I was even before the pictures came out, this guy did a like explanation of it, and he had like the interstellar wormhole, because like they worked together with like some scientists to like put that together. I was like, here's what we think a wormhole looks like.
Yeah.
Because that's where like it's like, oh, it's or not a wormhole, a black hole. And I think like one of the interesting things is like, well, if it's a black hole, you can't see anything because light can't escape it. And then like he's talking about like, well, also like light will shoot around it.
Yeah.
And so like you can like, as it shoots around it, you can both like see it and not see it at the same time, and it exists in a like kind of this weird diffracted circle.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense when you think about what it is. And,
Oh no, it does but it's our best guess of.
yeah, well, no, I think it actually makes sense because you're looking at the absence of something, not the presence of something. Because the black hole is essentially the absence of everything except some kind of weird radiation that it gives off. There's nothing, nothing escapes it. You're not going to shine anything on it and get any definition. And I don't know, what are we going to send? Is that the closest one?
No idea.
Okay.
It's in our galaxy, so I
Yeah.
guess.
but supposedly by the time it would consume us, we'll be long dead. So yeah.
Oh, those are things that'll kill us before.
Yeah,
Well,
I know.
life will kill us, and then other things will kill all of humanity and this planet in billions of years anyway. So.
No, I know.
It's all pointless.
Is that the Democratic slogan? 2020, it's all pointless. Just vote for something else.
The universe will end in heat death. If not now, then later.
And then Trump's like, that's not global warming.
Yeah, it's right. It's the opposite of global warming. Exact opposite. So I guess he's right. I don't know.
Did anybody hear a touching speech to the new shooting victims at a synagogue today in California before he
No.
left for his giant rally in Green Bay, Wisconsin?
That was just a giant Nuremberg style rally.
Yeah, you know his touching tribute to a synagogue shooting before the Nuremberg rally, yes. But no, he touched on it for like 5 seconds basically and just said, "Yeah, terrible hate crime, terrible hate crime." And then he's like, well, go off to the... It's like, people lined up for over a day just waiting to hear me speak. And, oh yeah, and I played golf really quickly with the Japanese Prime Minister. We sold him a bunch of weapons. biggest weapons deal ever. He only buys the best because we only sell the best. And just
We'll only rip off the stupidest.
and
You only
then just
sell the most expensive.
yeah, just like and apparently his Easter speech last weekend wasn't any better. Because I guess when he was speaking to a bunch of kids in the
Well, I don't believe in God, but I like that the people in my party like supplant me as some sort of evangelical priest.
well, yeah, there was a picture that was on his Twitter feed of him hugging Jesus in a light in the Oval Office, and somebody commenting is like, "I've never seen a president so close to God in my entire life," and it's like, really? And it's like, say,
Well, we know Reagan's in hell, so.
Yeah, we're certain of that. 'Cause he remarried, so.
oh, oh yeah, that's right. I never fucking remember anything about Reagan because I don't like that man. So it's hard. I always forget part of his personal history and shit. But no, it's.
That's why you've got to read Rick Perlstein's The Invisible Bridge.
So it's
Follow up to Nixon Land.
Oh, I didn't know.
Colin's favorite books.
Well, yeah. It's a very detailed
Not
book.
your thing.
I mean,
Huh.
I'd probably get through it if I did it on Book on Tape, but because I was reading that, it was just kind of a slog.
Oh yeah.
But I was also the same way with that Blackwater book, where like it took me forever to read that book because there's just so many details that they seem superfluous. The amount of details they go through, it's like, look, this is bad, and here's all the evidence. It's like, can you construct a story? Maybe you wrote a fucking book. Like if you just had nothing to do with anything. It's just like hot dog vendors. Those are low people. They're involved in this whole thing too. It's like, no, fuck you.
They should get George R. Martin to write because his fake history of the of the seven realms and seven kingdoms was more entertaining than some history books I've read. So
Yeah. There's some weird.
But Crooked was really good.
Crooked was good. Well, it actually had a story.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff that's just. Some people get accused. Some history books. It depends on what you put into it. Like if you're interested in a subject, and then someone creates a compelling narrative around that, even though you already know the facts. It's like all the Chernobyl books I read constantly. I've read good ones and I've read bad ones. The same basic facts of what happened are there.
Yeah.
Just can you mine out any more details or put a human spin on it
You know,
to where it's interesting?
that's like the line they have to walk on is like, how much of this is just going to be facts regurgitated, and how much of it am I going to have to roll into a narrative, and how much is that narrative focus going to obscure the facts?
Yeah. Yeah, you're walking a tightrope because if you make it too compelling and too much of a story, they're like, oh, he took a lot of license with the facts. But if you make it too factual, people are like, well, this is just a timeline of events. Like I can read a wiki summary. Why did I buy this book? So it's like you're always on that balance beam of, I mean, that's like the guy who wrote, what was it, Last Train Out of Hiroshima? Like that was a super compelling, great book, and then you find out like a lot of the stories in it were made up or exaggerated, but it was written as a history book. But a lot of stuff in it that was exaggerated. And I read it and I was like, "Oh, this is awesome!" And then like a year later, I heard some of that stuff was fabricated. It didn't happen the order they said it in. It did, or it's like, "Oh man, that was a really cool book about Hiroshima." But yeah, it turned out it wasn't. But if you already know the basic story and you just acknowledge that as a work of semi-historical fiction, it's a great book. But if you're looking at it for like, oh, this is the facts of what happened, no, it's not. Like I just went to a website that dissected all the things in it that were made up and all the things that were real. 90% of it was real, but it's just the narrative that was created around some of the characters and some of the events was just, it didn't happen that way.
Well, like with that, I found it kind of like coincides with this. I was watching Forgotten Weapons, and they were doing well, actually no, it wasn't Forgotten Weapons, but Ian was on Sea and Arsenal, and Sea and Arsenal does a lot of like deep historic stuff on weapons.
Okay.
And so they're doing the with the Remington shotgun from World War One. Which one was that? Is that the 870 or something?
No, what was that one called? Anyway, I know what you're talking about.
So, anyways, like even like Ian has this video where he like talks about like the myth of this shotgun, you know,
Yeah.
and how like the Germans like feared it, and like if people are caught with it, they were gonna execute people who had this shotgun or whatever. And then he has to go, and this guy basically breaks it down. It's like, no, the shotguns weren't really used as effectively as they are reported, and like they like because they go through like deep clerk details. And it's like, well, the problem with the shotguns in World War One is that the shells were made with like paper.
Yeah.
It wasn't like plastic. And then like later on they had brass shells, and that helped, but that didn't come till like later on. And so like the amount of this shotgun being used in World War One was almost insignificant. But there are correspondence where it's like, give us all the shotguns you can, we need them, and that's kind of where the myth comes from. And also like that thing where the Germans like sent out a thing like, hey, shotguns, they're like, they should be made illegal in war. There's that correspondence.
That's the Winchester Model 1897.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't even the Remington.
Well, it was made by a lot of manufacturers, but it was patterned from the original.
Okay.
Shotgun with a hammer. Those are always unique.
Probably slam fire that one, right?
Probably.
And then like, so they're talking about how like a lot of the stuff around this history is like, because they go to people, these veterans, and like you ask them for their personal stories, and a lot of the times they're exaggerated, but you have and a lot of things get lost to time, so you just kind of like have to report their exaggeration until any other information comes along to refute it. So otherwise you just kind of have to go with the embellishment, because that's like the first-hand account.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. It's like what was it, what was the other one that came out? Oh, like the 45 caliber, the 1911 45. One of the reasons that became so popular was because they said, oh, this actually was pretty effective, and because they used them a lot in they used them all over. But the myth around the 45 caliber, and we're talking ball ammunition in World War II, was that it was really effective at killing Japanese people. And it's like, yeah, 22 would have been effective in killing some of those people during island hopping because they were starving to death. And they took a bullet to the chest, and it's like, yeah, that's gonna, those people were at the end of, they hadn't had resupply in 6 months in some cases. They had malaria and all kinds of diseases, and yeah, the 45 seemed awesomely effective in close quarters because these people were dying. But yeah, because 45 is an effective gun, but it's it's in its ball ammunition form. It's not like the most lethal bullet ever conceived for a pistol either. They get into like 3rd and 4th generation hollow points for any caliber. It's like, yeah, those are deadly, but yeah, when you're talking World War II, so that was kind of the mythology around the 45. It's like, oh man, in the island hopping campaigns, it was awesome against people that were starving to death and had malaria. It's like, yeah, 22 would be pretty awesome too. A sharp stick would do a great deal of damage.
A swift wind.
Yeah. Kick to the nuts could be fatal. But we're not talking about how, so I got to have more steel-toed boots. And these guys with steel-toed boots, it's really doing a number. So yeah, there's a lot of those mythologies. Well, and then we've discussed this before, like the Tiger tank. It's like this was the most awesomely effective, piece of armor in World War II. No, it wasn't. I mean, the Tiger tank's worst enemy was the Tiger tank because it would break down as often as it would run. Now, when it worked, especially against untrained Russian conscripts at the Battle of Kursk, it's like, yeah, this one guy destroyed 45 tanks. Yeah, because the Russian guys were the equivalent of putting me and you and Andrew in a tank and saying, "Go fight!" We don't know what the fuck we're doing. It's like, yeah, these trained up Germans, they were awesomely effective with the Tiger tanks. and they only lost, I forget how many they lost to actual combat, but they lost 3 times that number to just field breakdowns, and the crew had to destroy them, so the enemy didn't capture them. So, but
I mean,
yeah,
it's the same thing with the American mythology with the Tiger tank, though. It was more based upon they didn't know what the fuck it looked like, so everything was a Tiger tank. But also
Yeah.
the fact that the Sherman was so badly armored that it didn't matter what the Germans shot at it, they would always pretty much kill a Sherman tank with one shot, while the Shermans would take multiple to kill the German tanks.
yeah. Well, the Sherman tank was hampered by the fact that it was a medium squad support tank that was pressed into the role of a main battle tank. Because we had main battle tanks coming down the pike. They were called the Pershings, but you couldn't get 50 of those on a Liberty ship. So we kind of went with, well, let's put the Sherman out there, because towards the end of the war in Europe, the Sherman was wildly effective because there was thousands of them and they dominated the battlefield. But yeah, against tanks and 88 millimeter tank guns and artillery, they weren't effective. But Tiger tanks weren't very effective against our artillery or our anti-tank bombers either. So it was, yeah, got to claim your victories where you can get them.
In a Sherman tank, the entire crew could get killed and just whip a wrench out. All right, it's going again.
Yep, take out the bottom plates, get a few buckets of hot water and a welding torch, and back into action. Well, it's like they said, what was the British guys were talking about? They were tank restorers, which is, I guess that's a job. Okay, what a cool job. But they were talking about the Sherman tank. They had one with a destroyed engine that they found. Well, the engine wasn't destroyed by fire. It was just an old tank. And they're like, well, that engine's crap, but we got a good one back at the shop. And it literally took these guys like 4 hours to swap the engines out. And this is like 70-year-old equipment. And these guys are just doing it as a hobby. And it took them 4 hours to swap the engine out in the Sherman tank. They said in the Tiger, you'd have to take the turret and everything off just to do this. And it was actually took longer to get the turret stabilizer system working again in a Tiger than it did to replace the engine on a Sherman tank. Because in a Tiger tank, when the turret stabilizer fucked up, the turret went all the way to the left and stopped, and you couldn't reset it. You had to take it to have technicians at Heinkel or Herschel or whoever made it, Horstel, reset the thing and rebuild it. Like it was that ridiculous. And we had stabilized, fire on the run things in the Shermans too. They were just real simple. They didn't involve like 9 servo motors that had to be perfectly in sync, or the whole thing would just go to the left and stop. But yeah, it's like a lot of different equipment used for one, something designed for a specific purpose, and then a war starts and it's like, well, just shove that in and see what happens. Especially a lot of that happened in World War II, especially with the Russians. It's like, let's see what this does.
Have you completed the treads on your mortar tank yet?
No, I haven't even started them yet. I'm working on the engine right now.
Huh.
It is a Maybach 12-cylinder diesel. And here's the transmission. I don't know how well you can see that. And this is the steering wheel where the guy sits. Tiger tanks actually had power steering, steering with one finger.
Huh.
And then it would break down. I mean, not that a lot of the features the Germans tried to incorporate didn't make it into modern tanks or stuff that was a good idea at the time, but yeah, did you really need to go for like overly engineered, like specific, like every tank is its own army type of approach?
Well, I mean, that they're Germans.
Oh, I know, but yeah.
Well, you know about the other Tiger tank, right? The Porsche one? Because there were 2 Tigers.
That's right.
Prototypes that they went to Hitler with, and they showed it to him. They had I think the company's called Horstel or something. They made the Tiger tank. Now the design of the Tiger tank outside of the engine was pretty much handed down by the Reichschancellor. It's like, we want the tank to look like this, weigh this much, and use this kind of materials. They both look the same. The Porsche tank used a engine to charge batteries, and the main drive motors in the tank were electric motors. So it was like a hybrid tank. So it worked like a diesel submarine. The engine just charged the batteries drove the tank. It was actually a pretty cool idea, but the problem is it kept catching on fire when it field testing because the batteries would overheat. because you're talking 1940s battery technology, and they're trying to do everything in this confined space and this, So the Porsche tank was actually a hybrid tank, whereas the Horstel one was more conventional.
Well, I know Porsche also did some designs for him where it was all these giant tanks that would never like take a bridge and never be on a road, but they designed them to go underwater and ford the river by going underneath of it. And it's like, oh, electric motor, so we don't have to worry about trying to run the engine and getting exhaust out. We'll just run on battery power and go under the riverbed and tighten her up. And then, like, half the ones they prototype, like, they just drowned in the river because the fucking battery.
The land sub doesn't work.
Oh, they were also, what was the Maz like? It's basically the length of a 3-story, or the height of a 3-story building, and it had naval artillery guns on it, and it would just be a big target. I mean, everyone would shoot at that thing. You could have just made a mock-up of it and put it out there, and everyone would be shooting at that while you sent the real vehicles in. You could use that as a decoy. The Germans had a lot of really impractical ideas, but when you look at who their leadership was at the time, it's like, oh, all these people are crazy. This is what crazy people do. Like the V rockets. If they hadn't incidentally bombed the V3 plant in France, where they were just going to shoot missiles out of the ground, like they could shoot 300 of them a day, that would have pulverized southern England if that had ever come online in any serious way. I mean, as it was, they sent 6,000 V rockets into the southern England. Now imagine if they had unrestricted 300 a day fire, and they didn't know where this plant was. They bombed it incidentally because it was all under the ground.
Oh.
I mean, there would have been nothing left. They would have just kept shooting these things until we figured out where they're coming from.
Well, between that and the Luftwaffe campaign to do air raids at night and stuff like that, and blitz or firebomb the shit out of Britain and make it surrender, which as they historically say, like, oh, we would never surrender. And it's like, well, if you have nothing left above ground besides the subway, I mean, I'm sure at some point you might call it quits. I don't know.
They would have just withdrawn to the northern part of England, but they wouldn't surrender. But yeah, there wouldn't be a whole lot of British history left. They would have been, fairly motivated to. Well, that would have affected our D-Day landing and stuff, because if they were still shelling in, V rockets. I mean, the V3 never came online, but we only incidentally bombed the plant. We didn't know what we hit till much later, London or where. Fun is and you couldn't shoot down the B2s, shoot down the buzz bombs if you came at them. You had to dive in to catch them, but you could do it. Because the British had a plane called it's the one that replaced the one at the Battle of Britain. It didn't see a lot of service, but it was a lot faster. And they shot down some buzz bombs, but they didn't shoot down any V2s because those were going like 700 miles an hour or something. It's kind of hard to shoot those down. Hard to shoot those down today. So did you guys see the Avengers movie?
I did not.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen it either. So.
Well, the ending was.
Was it Ant-Man going up Thanos' ass?
I can tell you, no, it wasn't Ant-Man going up Thanos' ass.
Aww.
As much as Reddit,
Spoilers.
the internet community really wanted that. I don't think a company owned by Disney would go that route, but I guess the Russo brothers did such a good job until this point, so maybe they just let him go without any supervision. I don't know.
They do have history with what's the show about college? Community.
Oh, okay.
That's where they got their start.
Oh.
They directed those Die Hard paintball episodes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. Well, good for them then. They did a good job through and through. No, it's a good, solid movie. It doesn't seem like 3 hours, if that helps. I mean, don't. I can tell you this.
Is
Don't
it
stay
is
for
it
the end
exactly
credits,
3 hours, or is it like 2 hours and 15 minutes? or-
No, it's 3 hours.
Jesus.
I mean, there's a nice little send off for the original cast members in the credits, but there's no in credit scene or anything. So if you feel like sticking around for all the credits like me and my wife did, don't bother.
Okay.
But there is a nice.
So I remember reading like, don't worry, don't stay for the end credits. There's not going to be a.
Well,
thing.
there's a nice little plaque thing where it kind of has like the cast member signature who played that character, and kind of like, hey, thank you, for doing such a good job of that character, and kind of like their still shots and stuff. There's that for the original Avengers, but other than that, there's nothing at the credits. And I think that was Stan Lee's last cameo, correct? For
Yeah.
Avengers, it should have been anyway, because I don't think they have anything in the can for Black Panther 2 yet, and
Well, unless they did something with Far Away Home Spider-Man.
yeah, technically, yeah, maybe. Well, maybe we'll see another cameo from him.
Or if they do another thing for, if they do that next Spider-Verse movie and they shoe him in somehow.
Well, I mean, Brie Larson was talking about, I guess, Avengers Endgame was filmed before Captain Marvel was, so.
Huh.
Because she said she had to, like.
Oh, yeah, I
act
guess
with-
they were shooting those movies back to back, the last
Yeah,
two.
but she said when she first did the character in the Avengers movie, she didn't even have a script for the Captain Marvel movie. She just didn't know anything about the character, and they're just like, yeah, I didn't really do any scenes with anybody. I just did like, hey, here's tape here, and here, and this is all green screen. So she was like, yeah, I didn't really have like a great time working with that in that movie, but it was fun. So.
I'm still looking forward to the Russo brothers' Electric State, whenever that's going to come out.
Oh, they're working on?
Well, Tales from the Loop is going to be an Amazon series.
Okay.
And then the Electric State is going to be produced by the Russo brothers, directed by the guy who directed It.
Okay.
So I don't know if any of that will ever happen. Well, the Tales from the Loop will, because it's already in production. But yeah, that's.
But other than that, for the I'd say it defied my expectations what I thought it was gonna be, but also was what it was gonna be. So I mean, it's definitely a movie to watch. It's not. I don't think it had any bad parts that I glaringly could pick out from the first time watching it. Maybe the second time through, I could probably find something that annoyed me or was stupid. But
Are you going to watch it a second time?
eventually, I wouldn't
Okay.
say it's like gonna be right away. It's kind of one of those things where it's like as soon as you watch it, you're like, yeah, that was a good ending.
Like the last one I was really surprised by was the Blade Runner 2049, because I think that's maybe the only movie I ever went to the theater twice to see.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Because I had a chance to see it in IMAX, and like, fuck yeah. And that's like almost a 3-hour movie. That's like 2 hours and 40 minutes movie, and it doesn't feel like it. At least for me, it doesn't feel like it.
no, I mean that's the thing is if your movie is well paced and drawn out and has steady, either action or storyline.
Well, I'd say Blade Runner was probably pretty slow. It's just like I'm reading into it way too much, so it was entertaining to me.
I don't think. I mean, I finally watched it.
Oh, you did watch it?
last
Okay.
month, and I found it to be enjoyable. I didn't think it dragged.
Well, like,
thought it was
yeah,
a
I
good
don't,
pace.
but I
don't
could
know.
see somebody just, it was like the part where he's walking in the desert and there's like all this weird, or it's not, well, it's kind of the desert, it's like Las Vegas, but it's like
Yeah.
irradiated or whatever. And you just like, see those weird sculptures and like there's bees and like there's no dialogue in that scene whatsoever.
Yeah.
But it's like weirdly captivating. But I could totally see someone in that scene just like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, I'm bored.
Well, it's just something where I think it's the oddity of the scene that draws you into it.
Yeah.
It's him parking on the outskirts and walking through Las Vegas. And yeah, it's like, yeah, a bunch of beehives. Well, that's weird. That kind of denotes humanity in a way, and that somebody should be here. And then he keeps finding like more and more evidence of like, yeah, somebody's here, and then eventually Harrison Ford. So, I mean, technically, I don't. There's been very few movies in the last like year that have like really disappointed me. Mostly Holmes and Watson, but which broke up the writing partnership with Will Ferrell.
This movie was so bad. We're gonna end our friendship. Did they produce that movie together?
Yeah, that was the last movie they wrote together,
Huh.
and they said they're not going to do another one now.
Because also don't they like co-own Funny or Die?
I think they do. They didn't really speak to that relationship, but they just said they're not going to make another movie together anymore. So, yeah, thanks Holmes and Watson. You broke up that. I mean, they're responsible for it, but at the same time,
I don't know. Like Will Ferrell hasn't really made a good comedy since like. What? Which one was first, Talladega Nights or Brothers?
Talladega Nights was first.
So
and
Brothers.
Step Brothers after.
Step Brothers.
No, I mean I agree. Step Brothers and Talladega Nights were the best ones, but
Well, I mean Anchorman's the best one, but like
No.
of his latest ones, because like
No.
he did like 3 like TV to movie reboots that were like terrible. Because he did like the Bewitched one, that Land of the
Oh.
Lost one, and like
I never
another
saw
one.
Bewitched, so I didn't see that one. I did see the one with him and Kevin Hart where he's trying to be like a badass.
Oh, is that Get Hard?
Yeah, there's like one funny scene in that movie, and it's just like every Kevin Smith movie I've ever watched. There's one funny
I
scene.
mean
in
Kevin
it.
Hart.
That's Kevin Hart. Yeah. I don't like him at all. He's not a good comedian.
Yeah, well, I had like a whole thing about Kevin Hart, and I'm trying to
He's
think.
Martin Lawrence in the new century,
Well,
who was Eddie Murphy in the last century, and
No, Eddie Murphy has talent.
Eddie Murphy is way more talented and has more abilities as an actor and a comedian than both those two put together.
Well, there's
Martin
something.
Martin Lawrence is from the early 2000s, and then he died and was reborn as Kevin Hart in this decade, and somebody will take his mantle in the next decade. That's how it works.
Well, like I don't know, like Kevin Hart, like I think he's trading a lot of. Well, I don't know, like there's a thing like you want to say general, like I'm end up being generally speaking of like black comedy, but I really don't like have a diverse enough account of like all black comedians to make that statement. But there is like a lot of people are just kind of like in the wake of Chris Rock, and like Chris Rock isn't even doing Chris Rock anymore.
Oh,
But like a lot of like Kevin Hart does, it's just kind of, and there's a lot of international comedians that do this too. Like I was talking about, like I was watching like the German comedians, and like how it's not all comedy. Like half of it's like a what do you call that? Motivational speaker /
Yeah.
comedy, and that's kind of thing like what Kevin Hart does, where it's like all energy, and then like you kind of gotta take it, because like that stuff can work, because that's like how Dane Cook worked too, where it's a lot of fucking energy to the point where you can impress a stadium full of people to watch a comedy show. Like that shouldn't work. So you're not doing comedy at the point, you're doing something else. It's just like people like you enough that they'll like fill into this giant arena to barely see you deliver a joke that's not really that funny, but because of the energy that's surrounding you, especially with the people giving their energy and laughing and all that stuff, it's like, is this good? I don't know, but
Well,
I think this is bad, but people are
feel
having
good.
fun.
well, let's put it this way: the newest Kevin Hart movie, the one where he's helping out the Bryan Cranston's invalid rich character.
Yeah.
Like that's the only movie I've been excited to see Kevin Hart in. Not because I'm genuinely excited for that movie. I'm genuinely excited to see if Kevin Hart can act without doing "Oh my god," just like acting like a complete dumbass. Because that's his whole character in every goddamn movie. And it's getting really old. It's like Eddie Murphy, how he got old, just like trying to do all these impressions and voices and dress up in suits and be in different characters. And the same thing with Martin Lawrence and later on in his career, where he was the same kind of just like whiny.
Every black actor has to do drag to get the white people to come watch.
Yes, Tyler
Yeah,
Perry.
I've
Tyler
heard-
Perry. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I always wanted to like investigate the Medea movies, because like I watched a trailer for like every one. It's like, this is terrible, right?
Yeah, it's terrible.
This has to be terrible. And there's like shit where it's like they're like stealing lines from like Major Payne. It's like, you didn't even come up with your own one, but like people love these fucking movies. And like I know it doesn't speak to me at all. So I know there's like, I must be missing something, but I feel like it's stealing things from other things, but it's supposed to be different somehow, because I don't know.
I don't know how it's supposed to be different.
South Park guys captured it perfectly, like they always do, because they're some kind of weird social geniuses. You know their character Token, like the one black kid in South Park?
Yeah.
Okay, they have for some reason they had all these characters on the show, and Medea was one of them. And they would do like a Medea catchphrase or a line, but it was always something stupid like "Oh Lordy" when something would happen like crazy, like an alien would burst out of someone's chest. It was one of those mishmash episodes, and Token would always snicker and give him $1. All the other, stop doing that. That's not funny. Stop doing that. And that was like their take on like Medea. It's like you got to stop giving him money.
Yeah, and don't they like bury him in the fucking hole at the end of the episode?
I think so.
Bury the ancient evil that like will live forever unless they're stopped or whatever.
And it's not like those movies make ton of money. They're made very cheaply, and they just speak to a specific audience mostly.
Oh, they're made in-house in Atlanta somewhere
for like $20 million.
Yeah, not even that. Like $8 million, $5 million. I mean, there's some of them are 3-set movies. They're just made on a soundstage.
That way, if 10 old ladies in each city get together and watch the movie each week, it'll make its money back and more.
The only movies I got that were targeted for a black audience that I enjoyed were like the Friday movies for some reason.
Yeah, well, I always felt like those were like the Black Clerk movies.
Yeah,
like this is Black Clerks.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is funny. I enjoy this. I don't know why, but I do. This is funny.
Well, I think those are like, it's like obviously like I don't necessarily identify with this situation, but there's something that very seems like suburban white kid about it, but just like the black version of it. Like we're just hanging out doing lazy shit for the day while weird shit happens.
Yeah, it's like slacker movies, like with that spin on it.
Yeah,
where it's like not quite the it's a little more aggressive, like, oh, we're not gonna let this shit happen. Oh, we're gonna smoke some weed and this shit's gonna happen, and we're gonna have a funny, like, you know, Ice Cube's gonna say something funny. Yeah.
And I always enjoy Spike Lee movies. Like, Do the Right Thing is a great movie, and that speaks to me no way.
Yeah.
Other than its weirdness. Like,
yes.
It's weird in a way that, like, okay, Spike Lee, you and me are completely different. You have a different outlook on life completely. But, like, we're the same kind of weird.
Your weird is made from a different color palette than mine, a different tapestry of ideas. But I get it, yeah. Yeah, Do the Right Thing that's overlooked for its bizarreness. And Denzel Washington, and yeah, that's a movie that's almost like how would you say that? That was what was I thinking? It's like a dolly picture if it was a movie, but it has like a conventional storyline, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
And the set design and the color palette and everything in the movie, like it's jarring.
Yeah,
it's almost like the camera's tilted a little bit through the whole movie.
Yeah.
Why? What is this supposed to do? But it's supposed to make you upset and unsettled, and it works because you kind of like the main characters, sort of, and then he makes all the mistakes. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, this is why this guy's life's fine. But he's gonna try to make it right, and it won't work out.
I also remember, like, so there's a movie he did. It's not very good, and I only remember one scene from it. But it's like, yeah, you, me, Spike Lee, we don't get each other, but I know your weirdness. Mm-hmm. And it's called Girl 6, and it's about like I think it's about a sex phone operator.
Okay.
And
I haven't seen one, but tell me.
And there's like a relationship in it, and like I think it's near the end of the movie, and like the main leads are like having a kiss. And, like, at that time where they're kissing, there's just fucking phones falling from the sky. And, like, close-ups of it hitting and smashing and breaking apart. It's like, all right, Spike Lee. That's cool.
It's your David Lynch moment.
And even what was that World War II movie they did, something, I can't remember. I remember, I remember that like got eviscerated, and like I just watched it out of curiosity. I was like, Jesus Christ, how bad is this movie? I thought that movie was totally okay.
I didn't have a problem with it, so yeah, I don't know why critics hated it so much. But yeah, I can't say it was like the best World War II movie ever. It was
but it was a different perspective.
No, I know,
because that was like going head to head with Oh, what was the Clint Eastwood World War II movie that he was doing?
Oh, Letters to Iwo Jima or From Iwo Jima.
Yeah, one of those. And like I think Spike Lee was complaining like how come you don't have any black soldiers in your movie, and then Clint Eastwood said like, oh, they're mostly in like reserve positions in the back. They didn't like serve at the front lines, and he was like, bullshit. Here's all these accounts of black soldiers serving the front line.
Trying to find that movie he made.
Oh, did any of you guys see the meme about Captain America being racist?
No.
It's that the logic is that America in Infinity War was totally okay with Wakandans taking and dying. Like he didn't even look back to make sure they were okay at all during the movie. He just assumed they would totally die for him because he didn't care about black people. It's like,
Captain
what?
America doesn't care about black people.
It was like, God, that's really bad. Like, oh, fucking. But yeah,
Oh, Miracle at Santa Ana.
Okay.
Okay, haven't seen it. Is it worth watching?
Yeah, I thought it was fine. It's kind of long, and there's a bit like overposed racism, but like that's to get across the point.
Yeah.
Because they have Walter Goggins in there, basically just like throwing the N word around constantly,
Gotta have that.
and it's like in the like the white like officers are basically like sending them to their deaths and stuff like that. It's like that's what we're gonna do with all these black guys.
Yeah.
And then there's kind of a weird and then but I thought that was interesting composition or juxtaposition. Here they're all Americans, but they're being treated poorly, and then they go into this French city and like they're the saviors, and they get treated so well by white people who have like nothing in common with them whatsoever.
Yeah, just thank you for liberating it. I have to check that out. Yeah, he kind of had a dry run until Black Klansman, didn't he?
Well, that bank robbery movie he did was pretty good. The one with Clive Owen, Inside Man.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, my wife likes that movie. I didn't like.
And then then he kind of just like fell. He did some documentaries and stuff I didn't watch, but I've been meaning to. And then like I hear that his remake of fucking that South Korean movie,
Old Boy?
Old Boy, was not received very well.
That movie gets like 28% on Rotten, which surprised me considering the source material.
Yeah.
And that Roland was in it. It's like, how do you fuck this up? But I haven't watched it to find out. I've been, what was I doing? Oh, I watched some of that stuff on Netflix.
Oh, the Love, Death, and Robots?
Yeah, there was some stuff there I liked. It was pretty cool. I liked the one at the last one about the Russians in World War II because they're fighting the demons from hell in Siberia and fighting World War II at the same time.
I figured you'd like that one just purely for the aesthetics, but
yeah, it just looked cool.
Well, I mean, that and the story's kind of interesting. It almost seems like it either should be a video game or should be like its own standalone like movie type thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a couple of those that are like that. There was like, oh, this should really be its own thing, like a TV series or movie, just either animated or live action. So, I mean, it'd be interesting to see if they adapt any of that stuff and do work with.
Yeah, I kind of feel like this is like a what do you
testing
call it?
bed.
Yeah, like this is like what do you call it? A pilot
Liquid
pilot complex.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, ever put out your 15-minute pilot? We'll see if we want to make this into a.
I mean, the only one I still didn't like was the third one. Like the perspective of like, oh yeah, I saw that man murder a woman, and now he's chasing me, and then
Aesthetically, I like that one, but I don't care
it
for
was good,
the story was like that. The story was just one point. It's like
Yeah.
you get to the end, it's like, oh, it's a loop. It's like, who gives a shit?
But no, other than that, like
I didn't care for the junkyard one.
Yeah, that's right.
And shit. I'm trying to think of the other one I didn't really care for. Oh, and like the one where that's the the salesman in the desert, I thought that one was just stupid.
Oh.
Like it had an interesting like visual aesthetic. It's like, oh, this used to be a sea, and then all thinking the guy gets naked and eaten by a shark. It's like, well, that was fucking stupid.
Yeah, I guess it's pretty much the same as the third one where, I forgot about that one. Where it's visually pleasing, it's kind of interesting, but that's all it offers.
Yeah, the one about the one that looked like Halo.
Oh,
About the drop ship.
Unlucky 13, yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting.
Oh yeah.
Very Ghost in the Machine at the end. Like, what does that really mean? It just that reminded us like, oh, somebody really liked Halo and just kind of made a story around it because it looked like I thought it was from Halo at first. I thought, oh, is this the Halo universe?
Yeah.
No, guess not, but close enough. It's just because the ships look the same.
Yeah, it's that drop ship looked like the Pelicans. So.
Yeah. And I watched Beyond the Aquila Rift, which was pretty good adaptation.
Okay, so you read the story. Like, can you like explain like the differences between things?
Oh well, the story. Well, see, the story's a little more complex than. I mean, essentially, it's kind of a take on aliens trying to do. There's something about the system they're using to transverse space where a certain number of ships just get lost, and what they do is they end up in this way off the lanes, and they'll never get back. And these aliens are trying to be merciful and understand them a little bit by inhabiting their consciousness and sort of creating a world that they're comfortable in. Because the aliens, even though they look scary as shit, they're trying to be nice to the people.
Yeah.
And they're trying to understand humans because we have a technology. They don't understand how we're doing this. It's just these human ships appear like, it's like, what is this? Oh my God. And so they're trying to understand us. The show doesn't make it that clear.
Yeah, I think it intentionally leaves it ambiguous because, like, I thought it would be lame if it's like they're just gonna eat the people at the end, and this is just like...
no, they're not. They're Alistair Reynolds aliens, which are always implacable, because there was a lot of aliens in the Chasm City universe, but they were always their motivations were strange, ununderstandable, not understandable, almost simplistic compared to what we wanted to do, or very subtly, deeply nuanced that wasn't revealed till much later in the story. So yeah, they're Alistair Reynolds aliens, which are not understandable. They don't relate to humans in any way at all. So their motivations are wildly different, and there's nothing explained.
And then the only thing like I didn't necessarily understand, at least in the short, is that like the co-pilot, when she wakes up and like doesn't understand, and like I don't know, like was that a part of the simulation, or was she actually alive at some point and then soon died?
Yeah, well, because a lot of because it's aliens trying to interpret human beings through their memories, through their capsules and stuff. She could always break through their illusion very quickly. It took him a while.
Yeah,
she could see right away, like, this isn't right, nothing's right, none of this stuff works. None of this makes any sense. There's nothing this far out. It's never been charted. She immediately starts breaking down the reality they've created. But because they create someone, in his mind, he had strong feelings for at some point, he goes along with it a little longer till he figures it out too. So that's what they were doing. But it's like a 50-page short story they compressed to like a 12-minute video. They did a pretty good job though. It's like I remember it, and it's like, oh yeah, this is not bad. It might help to read the story. I don't know.
Yeah, that's why like I went to like, YouTube, and they like the guy's interpretation of it was like, well, that's lame, and I went to Reddit, and it's like, oh yeah, that dude's totally wrong.
Yeah.
Because like the way they explained it on Reddit was they said that like she is also lost there. Like, she was the first one to arrive, and then she's kind of like, and then they said like in the story, like she's holding up different realities for like all these other aliens too, or on the ship, and that's where like he figures it out in the story, is that he keeps seeing the same people over and over again.
Oh, that I don't. As I remember, it's aliens that are there now. I don't know if they're trapped there or what, but they're trying to understand us. because we have a different kind of technology than they do. Because everyone's trying to escape.
Yeah.
But the first people that showed up, like if they just revealed themselves, they just scare the fuck out of everyone. Because aliens, they don't look anything like people, and they don't talk, and in ways we can understand. So they're trying to. They're like more. They have a better like biological science than we do, but not as good a technical science. And their ways of traveling through space are a lot different than ours. But they're trapped in this thing. But the aliens have been there for thousands of years, though, and they still haven't figured out how to escape. So, this is as I remember it off the top of my head.
Yeah. And that's where like the video makes it sort of ambiguous, because it clearly is evoking a spider web, and then the alien vaguely looks like a spider.
Yes.
And what was the other point?
And one of the crewmen in the pod looks like a dried out husk.
And then they don't like address like this idea of like, oh, we're all trying to get out of here. Like they don't do that. So there's like the exit from this world is not clear.
No.
And that dude's completely emaciated. It's like, well, this doesn't seem good.
Well, it's
Well, he's
also
been there hundreds of years.
Oh, okay.
The simulations played out hundreds of times as the aliens try to master a way to interact with the human beings.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. The way they structure that story, where he's the first one that interacts with somebody, and obviously everybody besides the woman that he's interested in and him are helmeted. There's no faces. There's no interaction. And so it's kind of just like, oh, okay, this is kind of weird. And then it kind of goes to like him asking questions about his crewmates, the guy he was with, his first mate. And yeah, the first mate does say something in kind of responsive, but in a panicky way. And then they say like, oh yeah, you can't talk to him. He's totally out of it. He's gonna need a while. And then it's like when it finally comes back around, like she's cut out of it. The first mate's cut out of it entirely. And then you're just focused on the interaction between those two characters. But then you get to the actual reality, and it's like, okay, she's dead. That guy's definitely been dead longer. The guy that you can never talk to, and he's wasting away. So it's kind of like that alien or whatever presence is feeding off people one by one and slowly killing them, and he's the next target since he's the only one still alive. So it kind of seems like that from
I think that's like that's where I was like, oh, it'd be lame if that's what's going on. If that's just what's going on, I would like it to be more complicated and nuanced. Well, they said something in Reddit about why the other two are dead, or why the navigator is less dead and why the first mate is more dead. I guess it's like something like there's some detail about the pods where you're not supposed to put paint on them. And like other people put paint on there, and like the captain doesn't because that's the regulations. And then the paint came off, and then like it got stuck in some air intake, and then that's what slowly killed the other two, and not him.
Oh, could be.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a cool series. I mean, it's they're definitely, like you said, this might be a pre-development thing because a lot of it's of uneven quality. Like some of the stuff. Like really nonsense. Like, no, this isn't too good. But
what about Yogurt President? I love Yogurt President. Anybody that's better than our own president, it's got to be better, right?
What's the one where they're killing Hitler constantly?
Oh yeah, the time paradox Hitler thing. Yeah. That's fucking hilarious. Where it's like Hitler. Like the third or fourth one where it's like he makes it to the park bench, but then he's seduced by prostitutes and dies in an orgy. or fucking just like lives and all. Like it's just fucking. It makes no sense, but also it's just like it's kind of like the nice VR demo. And then it's like, do you want to see what happens when Abraham Lincoln kills John Wilkes Booth and shit? It's like, yes, I do. Is this the second episode? I want to see it.
This is the new Celebrity Deathmatch. Celebrity Time Paradox.
I mean, between that, the Yogurt President, and the first comedy one, which was like the Robot Apocalypse tour, which is probably, that one's still really solid. Yeah. That was my favorite one until I saw Yogurt President and then Hitler Time Paradox. But yeah,
I think my overall favorite one is the one with the lady that's the fox, the animated one. That one's like really harrowing and effective. Where it's
I don't think I've watched that one yet.
Oh, okay, that one's really good.
Have you watched the farmers that are on an alien planet and have mechs that kill off alien waves?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
I mainly watch the Alistair Reynolds one.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah, because it's like, oh, that's what I'm going to watch for, because I'm hungry for Alistair Reynolds content.
Yeah, the other one that Alistair Reynolds wrote was the Zima Blue one.
Blue,
oh.
which was just more weird than.
I actually ironically guessed what the ending was going to be to that, like, as soon as they introduced the pool robot
Yeah.
into that. And I'm like, oh, that's the same color blue, so that's got to be the pool robot. And then it's like he becomes the pool robot again. I'm like, yeah, I knew where that was going. Fucking Jesus.
I like the part. It's so stupid. Actually, I don't like it. I just thought it was funny because of how stupid it was. It's like, okay, she's interviewing the guy, and he's telling her his life story. And you know, she always has it the one way. It's like, he's a human who became more robotic.
Yeah.
And then, like, he tells us, like, no, I was really a robot the whole time. And she's just like, no, it's the other way. It's like, I'm literally telling you, lady, what the fuck happened. Why are you questioning me on this? You're a reporter.
I
follow
lived
up
it.
with
I,
I mean, sure, yes, question whether that's, you know, valid or not, but the way that it's delivered, it's like, no, you're a human. It's like, bitch, I told you.
If they follow up with this, they should make the what's the other Alistair Reynolds short? It's actually just 2 short novellas. It's called Diamond Dogs and Turquoise Days. Diamond Dogs is really dark. I mean, it's like incredibly, shatteringly horrible at the end. But it's set in the Chasm City universe. So
did you?
Oh, and I didn't really care for the Werewolf Marines episode.
No, that was more disappointing than it should have been.
Well, I guess, like, I had more of a perspective on things where it's like they get a lot of fucking detail right, but then like visual detail, but then it's like, yeah, apparently we just call the Master Sergeant and threaten to kill him. That's what we do.
only if you're werewolves, right?
Yeah.
So were these? I don't know. So it's just a ridiculous story. Was this like something we genetically engineered to fight terrorists, or?
No, it's just like, hey, what if they're werewolves, and then what if we used them in the Iraq War?
So there was like, it's just like a what if they're real,
Yeah.
Yeah.
not something like science project. Oh, okay.
It's more like True Blood, but with Iraq War.
And I was hoping for more of like dog soldiers.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The one in Scotland.
Yeah.
Okay, I've never seen.
It's still a
that.
good
I know.
werewolf. It's still a pretty solid werewolf movie, since considering it's like a low budget.
Yeah, it's a
Sci-fi
really good
one.
low budget, like they're trying really hard horror movie.
Like
It's
there's
got the guy from. It's got the guy from my favorite, like we're all fucked man character from Event Horizon. It's that same actor, right?
I can't remember.
John Pertwee. He's
It might be. I can't remember.
remember the guy where they're playing the tape back of this is the last recording from the Event Horizon. It's just people screaming, someone saying something in Italian, and he's like, "All right, fuck this, we're not going." He's the third Doctor's son. That's why I knew who he was.
Oh.
He does a lot of weird sci-fi stuff. But he's the guy in Event Horizon. He's the voice of reason. It's like, what are we doing?
No, I'm somebody that really loves werewolf movies, especially ones that are done well and with care, because there's so much schlocky shit that nobody should ever have to go through. Because like probably the most recent good werewolf movie is Late Phases. That's on Netflix.
Was that the one with the guy from? Yeah, that's the actor I liked from Stakeland.
Yeah, he's the lead actor in that as a blind veteran.
Is that good?
Yeah. I mean, the makeup effects on the werewolves could be better, but other than that, it's a good movie.
Well, I just remember him from Stakeland.
Yeah, it's on Netflix, so it's very accessible.
What's it called?
It's called Late Phases.
Late Phases.
But other than that, like there's like a Train to Busan like werewolf movie that came out in Britain like a couple like 5 or 6 years ago that I kind of like. It's not perfect either, but it's like there's so many howlings. There's one that I really like called Bad Moon, where the werewolf talks and insults people and rapes them and shit during the movie because it's just fucking weird.
What's Train to Busan? Isn't that the
A zombie movie
Zombie
on
movie
a
from
train.
Korea?
Was that South Korean one?
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, it's that one's being remade in America because we can't not touch good good.
Does it
foreign
still take
cinema.
place in Korea?
No, it's probably gonna take place in America,
But
yeah.
still called.
Train.
That'd be weird. We just remade a Korean movie, set it in Korea, but with all American actors. Like, what are you doing? This is ours now. Damn it!
But
Try
no,
and take it from us. We have nukes.
There's not a lot of fucking good werewolf movies. I don't think any of it focuses enough on like the actual damage they can do to a human being. It's all like the same horror movie tropes of like, oh, I could kill you in like a second, but I'm just gonna toy with you for 5 hours, and then you're gonna kill me with some inane bullshit you came up with.
Should I go through my werewolf movie? I was
yeah.
going to write, but we'll never will now.
Yeah, you're talking about the one where like a moon base or whatever.
Yeah, so I got this from the impetus. Should we talk about the rest of the thing or just go into this?
Just go into this. I haven't watched the rest of them, so
Okay. The impetus of this idea, and at least originally for me, as I watched, there is a second movie of Vampire Hunter D. Do you ever heard of Vampire Hunter D?
I've seen the first movie. I've never watched any other ones.
Vampire, he's kind of blade-like and has a hand or has a face in his hand that talks to him. It's fucking weird. But anyways, at the end of the second movie, there's a part where it's like all the vampire head vampires have built spaceships to launch their houses into space, but they never do. It's fucking weird. So it's this idea that they just never. And then I had this what if humanity has to escape Earth to get away from vampires, and they go to the moon, and then on the moon they discover something where they can turn themselves into werewolves, and then make werewolves of commandos to then have to send back to Earth to save humanity. So it's essentially it becomes like Full Metal Jacket, but with werewolf soldiers. So it's this idea you're going to this training camp where these people have to learn how to be werewolf soldiers. So the thing is when you change into a werewolf, your vocal cords are different, so you don't speak English anymore. You can't make English sounds anymore. So you have to learn this werewolf language that you don't know. And then I had the medic in the team, they aren't werewolves. So they can have more dexterous movement to fix the werewolves, if that so be, because the hands change too. They're less dexterous, but they're a lot stronger. So they don't need to speak the werewolf language; they just need to understand it. So they also have to go to class, and I just imagine giant werewolves sitting in little desks, or at least to them are little desks. And then all the guys would have to be 300-pound bodybuilders because. There's no mass change when they switch to a werewolf. It's just their body elongates and the way they connect to each other. It's it's more of a mechanical advantage the way their body becomes. Because that's a thing. It's to come into reality is when somebody just becomes a werewolf, they didn't gain any mass anyway.
They didn't just gain 300 pounds from some quantum entangled.
Yeah. So it was trying to have these little details of well, what would happen if you became a werewolf?
Well, I know it's just that's glossed over entirely in like Underworld or just shit that the millionth Howling movie that nobody cares about or all this other shit. Werewolf movies themselves, there's not that many good ones. It's kind of sad for.
I never saw that Benicio del Toro one.
I actually like that one, but more on the grounds of there's actual story and that actually gets some of the actual fight horror aspect of it where it's people stand literally no chance, they're just massacred a drop of a hat all the time, and it's yeah, that makes total sense because I said before, it's not just the werewolf kind of just going and then kind of missing you. It's just you getting fucking devoured, and that's because I've obviously almost forgot classics here, but American Werewolf in London's pretty awesome fucking movie. Obviously, I already mentioned The Howling, but then there's Silver Bullet, which is a respectable movie. It definitely has. It's not a good werewolf movie. But it's better than most of the shit you'll find, like Werewolf University or some of the other fucking ones that are on like Netflix or whatever. Where it's like, really, this is not no. Like, I mean, the most ridiculous werewolf movie I like I said before, is Bad Moon, just because the werewolf taunts people and calls them pussies, and then like rapes women, and like fucking. There's like one scene where they need a DNA sample to prove his stepdad is the werewolf, so his girlfriend goes in there and blows him and spits his jizz into a cup, and they go and get a DNA test on it. It's like, this is fucking ridiculous, but it's awesome. It's like, what other werewolf movie do they just like fucking taunt people like, I'm gonna fucking kill you, and then comes in and just like fucking kills everybody in 5 seconds or whatever. And it's like, oh, okay.
I guess in the Blade comics and in one of the Blade movies, there were supposed to be werewolves,
Oh yeah.
but it never really developed. Like, they're all South American.
That'd be interesting.
Well, the way so like the first half of my movie would have been just basically like training, so it'd be like, you know, like Full Metal Jacket, and then it gets to the second half of the movie which everybody gets bored with. And that's where they have to like go to Earth, and like, and the trick there is that like the way vampires have enslaved humanity, they build these giant domes so that they don't have to worry about the sun. And then basically inside the domes is basically a giant drug sex rave party.
Okay.
So they basically just keep them drugged up and have all the sex they want because they want them to procreate because they need more food. And basically humans don't have any responsibility, and it's really hard to liberate people who all they want to do is take drugs and have sex.
Even if they are eventually harvested for blood or whatever.
Yeah. And then I think my surprise ending at the end to lead to a sequel is at the end, aliens invade the Earth, and they're Nazi aliens, but like the classic gray aliens, but like with Nazi uniforms.
Those snappy uniforms. It's a death's head, but
you
it's
just have to change up the swastika a little bit.
Well, it's because that whole thing with the was it in Contact, where like they get it and like suddenly it's like it's Hitler. It's like, what the fuck's that about? It's like, oh, that was the first broadcast.
First TV broadcast was Hitler at the Munich Olympics. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So all the aliens have Hitler mustaches or something. Like...
Yeah, pretty much. Just something completely ridiculous, and it's like to make people go, why the fuck? And then you never get to make the second movie, which would be terrible. It's like, oh, vampires and werewolves have to work together to fight the Nazi aliens.
Fight space Nazis.
Well,
Nazi.
I mean, technically, it couldn't be any worse than the last 3 Underworld movies or whatever. So
yeah,
they took that good premise of like, oh, it's a war between werewolves and vampires, and humans are kind of caught in between, and they're kind of like the cattle of both species. But instead, the first movie is pretty great for what it is and set up a solid premise, but then it totally shit the bed on the other fucking like 3 or 4 they churned out.
yeah.
So. Yeah, Kate Beckinsale can only do so much work with her boobs. I mean, her talent.
Talent and boobs.
Yeah.
Boob talent. So did you guys watch that Star Trek episode yet?
Oh, I don't think I relayed that to Andrew. I
didn't know anything about that. So
Okay, well,
I mean, I saw that thing like I said, I saw that like last year, and I still fresh in my memory.
Let Andrew watch it. We can pick up on it next week.
is this just like on YouTube or something, or do I have to like download?
You have a Netflix.
Yeah.
So it's on Netflix. I believe all of Next Gen's on Netflix.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Was it season 1 Conspiracy?
Yeah, season 1. I think it's the next to last episode. It's just called Conspiracy.
Oh, okay. I'll go
One of
check
the weirdest Star Trek: The Next Generation episodes ever, and it's kind of strange how it's tied in with everything that happened later. But it wasn't known that it was.
Well, I'm sure my wife will actually be up for watching it because she likes Star Trek TV. So
Yeah, watch it together. Tell me what you think.
It'll be wildly different from any other Star Trek you've seen.
Yes, it'll be very different.
oh, okay.
Unless you've seen Star Trek Discovery.
No,
Yes.
I haven't seen that.
I haven't seen that yet. I gotta figure out how to see that. Really want to see the new Picard. I would go behind the firewall for the Picard series, but it sounds like that's in stop production right now for some
Oh, it
reason.
is.
So
I did-
not some weird reason, but yeah.
I saw one of the episodes of the new Twilight Zone. I saw
What do
the.
you-
It's very well produced. I didn't necessarily like. There's a part when you get to the end of it, and it's like, well, that doesn't really make sense. But oh. But I saw like their take on, was it 40,000 feet? Terror at 40,000 feet.
Oh,
Oh yeah, okay.
So this one, their twist on it is the guy Adam Scott. He's like, sitting down and the plane's taking off, and he finds like an MP3 player in the front in the pocket in front of him. And he's like, well, this is kind of weird. And then like he gets some headphones and he puts it on, and it's a podcast describing like how the plane he's on gets lost. So it's like this podcast from the future, and then that starts freaking him out. So he's like trying to like do everything he can to like try to save this plane. And then
Huh.
and then of course and trying to do that, his own demise is created.
Yeah, he makes the plane get lost.
or the alternate reality version where he just falls asleep listening to the podcast and then gets safely to his destination.
Well, speaking of podcasts, I was watching for some reason the Blacklist, which is kind of a weird show that I watch a little bit of and then don't, and then get back into it. They had the main character. What's the actor's name?
Fuck.
James,
The dude from Stargate, yeah, James
James Spader.
Yeah, I was like trying to
Yeah.
think of his last
Spader Man.
He was sitting there listening to something. He had really expensive headphones on. It was like, I don't know if it was a small reel-to-reel tape or just a cassette. Because it just cut to it quickly. And the girl was like, "What are you listening to?" And he goes, "I'm listening to a podcast. It's a serialized, production. It's like every week they talk about a new topic." And she was like, "Nobody listens to podcasts on tapes. Those are all like digital." And he goes, "Yes, and digital is the domain of hackers. So I have them transferred over to cassettes and listen to podcasts on cassette." Like, kind of weird and retro. I could see that starting to be a thing, because he's always some former terrorist who's paranoid about everyone and everything. Doesn't use computers or listen to digital media.
Did anybody ever watch that? Oh shit, what's it called? Remember Ben from Lost? He did like a CBS like procedural.
Oh yeah, it wasn't Numbers, but it was something.
It's like point. Is it Point of Interest?
Person of Interest.
Person of Interest.
Yeah, no, I never watched it. I don't know what it is, but
Because like I heard some things about later on that seemed really interesting. I was wondering if like we should like watch that show for this show. Because I think it has like 5 seasons, but yeah.
I never watched that.
Um,
Find out what's interesting and we'll watch it.
because it's like this guy creates like this algorithm to basically like get all cameras and shit and basically be able to find people throughout the world, but there's a way they, and I remember seeing the first episode and I wasn't like necessarily impressed with it, but I hear this thing where like the computer they created, like they like it's like an AI, but they like it doesn't have RAM or something weird like that, so basically it's like a computer with Alzheimer's.
Oh, it can never generate any memories.
Yeah, and so it does this, but it has like, but it has its own, it has its own thought or whatever, and it has this thing where it's like sending things to people, like, because it can like send things for like the FBI, like go do this, and it's like having people do these things to basically like recreate its memory for itself. I was like, that sounds fucking fascinating. I didn't know that was fucking in this show.
Huh. Yeah, we'll have to watch that.
But and I'm not even sure what even gets to that, but like that idea sounded really fascinating to me. I'll see how many like episodes are in a season. If it's like 20, it'll be like, well, maybe. What is that?
Oh, the guy who plays Ben, I didn't know he's from the city you live in.
Oh yeah.
He's from Cedar Rapids.
At least one of us made it out.
Him, Elijah Wood, and the dude from fucking So is his name Nixon? Fuck, the guy from Office Space.
Oh, well, that and there's a player for the Cincinnati Reds that came from Cedar Rapids, our high school too. But yeah,
Isn't what's his name from there too? The guy who was married to the older lady.
be more specific.
Oh, the guy who did
bet.
Punk.
Guy did what?
Ashton
Oh,
Kutcher.
Ashton Kutcher. Yeah, he's
And technically, Jason Momoa passed through.
right.
But just like pretty much everybody on this list just passed through. Like they're not like permanent residents or never really were.
Yeah, it looks like these seasons are 23 episodes.
Oh shit.
So, and they're hour episodes. So yeah, I don't know. We'll have to be a slow burn on this one.
I'm surprised that local news media hasn't. Apparently, that show must not be a hit because nobody on like KCRG or KJN around here like keeps talking about him all the time. Like prodigal son from Iowa. Like this guy is
Who are you talking about?
the guy that played Ben in Lost or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Emerson? Yeah.
Yeah, because Iowa does one thing and one thing only when celebrities were born here. Anytime they do anything, wipe their ass, sexually assault somebody, they always just talk about them like, oh, we realize
Please come back and make us seem meaningful.
we're desperate. We need someone cool. Like,
I tried to work on a story once where the whole idea is like, how can you make Iowa cool? And the idea is that we create an awesome drug that like makes people smarter.
and you can put it on corn.
Yeah.
And,
And then because like the land was so valuable, like we built like these air cities,
Oh.
and they reflect the sun down to the land or whatever and shit. So it's like you have like New York in the sky above Iowa.
So it's kind of like Alita Battle Angels City a little bit. And then, yeah. No, that'd be actually kind of cool to live in the clouds, maybe, or like higher up. Just have like everything. The whole state of Iowa would be farmland and floating.
Yeah,
floating
exactly.
cities with like giant maglev rail cars.
But it's like only in Iowa. It was like I had to like make something specific. Like only the drug can only be produced in Iowa and used in Iowa. So that's what makes Iowa the hub of the entire world.
It's gonna have to be something made of either dead dreams or corn. Maybe a combination of the two.
You got to put your dead dreams in the corn.
Or maybe it's just settling. Is that the drug? Like, I can't go anywhere else. I settled.
I can't remember what I call it. I think I had like a cool name for it, like along the lines of like something along the lines of like Ice 9 or like Nuke from RoboCop 2.
Nuke.
I would probably just call it something inane and stupid, where it's just like, just call it the working middle class, or something like that. Like just like a drug that's not cheap, but it's not expensive, or like
American Dream.
Yeah, just something fucking weird. That's what I do with all my.
Famous person from Ypsilanti. Well, Iggy Pop.
Huh?
He was
That's a good
born
one.
here.
Oh, that he's not really from.
Well, it's like I was born in New York, but I would consider myself from Iowa, even though I lived in Indiana for like 15 years or whatever, or 10 or whatever.
Iggy Pop was born in Muskegon, and he actually grew up on a trailer park on Carpenter Road, which isn't. Oh, this is like a mile from my house. That's weird. I didn't know that.
Is it weird that I definitely identify as somebody being from Iowa, but also don't care about being associated with the United States in whatsoever fashion? Like, I really don't care being identified as an American. I'd rather be identified as somebody from Europe or some other country that's way better than this place.
I want to be Denmark and Iowa at the same time. Can we just transport Iowa to Denmark?
I don't want to be from anywhere but America. And the only reason why is because I can feel smugly and more intelligent than most of the people. Did you know?
I mean, because I can't be the only person or in the planet that's never not felt national pride.
Oh, you're not the only person who's un-American. Trust me. There's. I'm just doing it. What was the one guy? What city did he? Some kind of podcast, like his wife's from Dublin, Ireland. and he's like he was a computer guy or something. And he's like, yeah, we should move there. Fuck America. And he was from California.
Oh, that's George Romero.
They lived there for
Or
2
not
years.
George Romero, John Romero.
Oh, yeah, they lived there for 2 years, and he was ready to fucking kill himself. He's like, you got to get me out of here.
Oh, never mind. That's a different guy.
Yeah, it's not
John,
this guy.
John Romero. He used to work for id Software, and they made Doom and stuff like that. He moved to Ireland to make video games, and his wife's from Ireland.
Oh.
No, this guy was he did something in computers. I don't know what it was. This was very recent though. And he was from California. He married a girl from Ireland. He's like, let's move back there. And he said the people were cool. Says the cost of living was horrendous, and he's from California, and he said the cost of living was horrendous. But he said the weather was going to drive him to suicide because he'd never lived in a place where it's like it rains 361 days a year. And it gets really green in the spring and looks cool, but then it all turns gray in the fall. It's like, and everyone just wants they're drinking. It's like, what are we doing tonight? Let's get drunk. It's like, that's what we did the last 400 nights.
I watched some a while ago. I watched some like Irish React videos. Those are pretty funny. It's like yeah, you know all those React videos where you get like like kids
Or you
react.
The scary maze and it jumps out and screams at them.
Well, no, it's like you show 'em, like kids like. Well, I remember the one I remember still was like Attack of the Titans. Like kids react to Attack of the Titans.
Oh, okay.
It's basically shit they've never seen before or might react weirdly to because it's not their universe.
So yeah, they had Irish people drinking American whiskey and stuff like that.
I'm sure they thought that was wonderful.
Oh yeah, they like some of that. Like yeah.
Well, for some reason, there's just one React channel. All it is just Irish people react to this. Irish people react to this.
I never knew about this.
Oh yeah, that's like half of YouTube is just React videos.
Oh, okay.
Like a React video is basically like, there's a new trailer out. I'm gonna point a camera at myself and I'm gonna watch the trailer and then react to it, and then people get like millions of views based on that.
Whereas I would just rather see the goddamn trailer and not have to worry about
And
a
the-
guy reacting to it.
And then there was like a whole YouTube like Dynasty, like their React videos. Like they tried to trademark like React videos on YouTube, and then like people revolted and like, all right, fine, we're not gonna do that.
Oh, I think I vaguely remember hearing about that. Yeah, these two guys tried to say that
Yeah,
to patent the word react or something.
yeah.
Just like
So
this.
what did they give Irish people? Like just our basic Jack Daniels all the way up to like 180 proof.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I think the one they really liked was it Knob Creek?
Knob Creek, yeah, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah, they liked that one.
Didn't like Crown Royal, didn't like... Or I guess that's Canadian.
I think there's just some Jack Daniels ones, but then there was like like the Hawkeye vodka, like that's not the
Yeah.
vodka that, or not vodka, but like the whiskey that comes in the clear plastic bottle.
Yeah.
Like they give them some of that shit. They're like, oh, all plastic, the seal of quality.
Yeah, that's how you can tell it's good. When, yeah,
Anything with a third-rate mascot that's poorly drawn or copied from somebody else, that's the seal of quality.
But like the funniest thing, like in that video, like I've basically everybody in the video is talking about like, I shouldn't have drank so much last night and then done this video this morning.
Yeah.
I've seen those videos where they give people like the crazy high proof liquor that is for some reason is like, our laws are pretty loose about that here, but in a lot of places like anything over 90 proof is illegal, except for when you get into Eastern Europe where they have that 200 some proof like Polish potato vodka
Yeah,
where it's just like it's essentially gasoline with
yeah.
uh
It's not meant to be drinking straight. It's meant to
yeah,
be
you're supposed to cut it with water. You're not a lunatic. But yeah, we have like Everclear and Golden Grain. That's illegal. Actually, that's illegal in Michigan now. Golden Grain is.
But sadly, weed is. No.
Oh, that's legal.
No, I know. I'm just saying it's like it's kind of weird that you pick on two alcohols, but then like that weed, that's legal now though.
Well, you still can't buy it. It's weird. You can't buy it here. It's legal to have. You can't go to the dispensaries because they haven't. They're working Well, I don't know if you heard, like some judge here in Michigan basically threw out our election districts.
Yeah,
said
the
that-
gerrymandering thing.
Yeah, they said that your districts are completely gerrymandered, and it's everyone's gonna have to be everyone who is in a state district, federal, state, and local are gonna have special elections, and you're gonna have to be re-voted under new districts here. So you can't have any more because remember we passed that thing on the ballot initiative when we elected our governor, because we had two things. That one, it was legal pot and no more gerrymandering. So as soon as the no more gerrymandering went through, they immediately went to court, and the judge was like, yeah, all these districts are fucked. So all our state and federal representatives are going to have to be revoted. Except for our senators and there's one other, the governor, of course, that was statewide. But the senators are just top and bottom of states. There's no real district there. But all the representative, state, and federal special election next year, which they say is going to cost $300 million to because we usually don't have all those elections simultaneously.
Yeah.
But now they're going to have them all. So they say like the Congress. How many does Michigan have? Anyway, like half the people they have now that are Republicans are probably going to be Democrats after the special election, because they do weird things. Basically, they made it impossible for any Democrat to win in like half the districts, and so now that's all done. But nobody knows how they're going to redraw the districts for the special elections, so that's where it gets ambiguous.
We gerrymandered it the other way.
We re-gerrymandered.
We did the legal gerrymandering.
Well, see, what they do here is, like here you still have a lot of enclave communities where it's like, okay, this is a black community, this is a white community, this is, you'll have it where the majority of the people are from one ethnic group. And the way they gerrymandered the districts was they put like, they would have like a real poor part of one town and then a real rich part of another with a higher population. And so it's like the poor people, their vote never counted, because you'd have like Farmington Hills and then some other real poor district like down in Rouge River connected like some serpent. And so it's like, yeah, the poor people would never get their votes. They were outnumbered. So now they're saying that's illegal, and you've got to have, I don't know what the guidelines are. See, that's where it gets vague. It's like, it sounds hopeful, but it's like, wait, what are the guidelines? Are we going to do county by county? How are we going to do this? Well, we haven't worked that out yet. It's like, oh yeah, here it comes.
Well, I mean, the old districts used to be based upon population size and, or not ethnicity, but population group.
Well, yeah, ethnicity actually, but they never said it that way.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think if you just did, I mean, yeah, it's going to be hard. If you just did county by county for a while, it'd probably be the best thing. But obviously, then there's certain things within the county that's all subdivided too. So, I mean, just do population within the county, but the counties themselves separately. So, otherwise, yeah, you're just gonna have the same thing. It's like, we'll elect an independent board to redistrict everything, and then it's like that independent board, hashtag air quotes, had a bunch of paid people on it that happened to think maybe this serpent should come back. I don't know.
Yeah, the snake that winds its way through Michigan. I mean, the way it was explained to me initially, when I voted for the damn thing, because there was like a website you could go to that had hundreds of pages that talked about how they were going to do this, and how each district, depending on population size, would have a committee that would form, and it would be an equal number of Republicans and Democrats. And so if you had a district that had 3 representatives from each side, all 6 of them had to agree on how the district would be shaped. So not one side wouldn't just completely lose and be shut out versus the other. But now with this court ruling, there was also something thrown in. It's like, what about independent candidates? You only included the Democrats and the Republicans. And everyone just kind of looked around. It's like, there's other candidates? Well, you want the what's the wacko, like, is the militia party of Michigan going to be part of our voting, or how are we going to do this? So
this is the first Nazi district ever.
Yes.
in Michigan history.
Yeah, just have a big district shaped like a swastika.
We don't know why we're right next to the communist district, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Michigan Communist Party. They haven't been around. They dissolved like 4 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because the
Oh, yeah,
church.
they're real communists here. I've met them. They're passing out flyers. It's like, that's interesting.
Well, because the Church of Satan's going strong now, they're tax exempt. So, like other organizations fall and others rise.
No, yeah, I've met real deal. I remember when they were having me and Grayson went to downtown Ann Arbor to see the Occupy protests after the economic collapse, and we got collected as many flyers as we could. And half of them was like Michigan Communist Party, United Communist Party of America, and it's like, yeah, these are real groups. It's like, how big are they? It's like, oh, it's probably this lady and her 5 friends that sit around and copy this shit. But yeah, they're a group. My son was, I think he thought that stuff was illegal. I was like, no, it's not officially illegal, but you know, you might get a knock at the door some night. It's like, well, let's review your information on your, tax exempt little political party here. Oh, you've done something wrong. 25 years in prison for you.
I saw like a weird video of someone trying to defend themselves in the sovereign citizen way, where it's like, I'm not David Cage, I'm the representative of David Cage. The judge had to be, he's like, who are you, the self, the entity talking? Are you David Cage? I'm just the representative. It's like, who are you?
The voice of David Cage. Where is the David Cage entity? Is he present in this courtroom? Get out a Ouija board. Get around, yeah.
See, that's what Donald Trump should have done for his Mueller interview. Just send somebody to talk for him instead of, he's like, just do that. It'd be much more entertaining.
Sauron. I speak for Donald Trump.
You gotta put on the
master of the universe.
Then his head spins around. He vomits.
I'm fucked.
That'd be a much more interesting report to read instead of just like, nope, he declined to be interviewed. No, he sent somebody in his place to speak in his voice.
He sent one of the Nazgul to speak for him. It was kind of weird. Guy showed up in a horse and cave.
No collusion T-shirt on.
Yeah.
that
No
was
Collusion World Tour 2019.
How is people?
No collusion, but oddly suspicious.
Yeah.
Well, because
That's what Trump should do is form like a band with who's the fat fuck whose daughter is the spokesman? Mike Huckabee. He plays guitar. Donald Trump on vocals. Huckabee on bass. I'm sure we could find a couple other Nazis to play.
Well, you can get like Lindsey Graham and Jeff Sessions or not Jeff Sessions. What's his name? Turkey neck guy, the fucking guy with like the neck.
McConnell.
Yeah, Mitch McConnell.
Yeah, the senator from Kentucky.
He's on keyboards because everybody knows the rapist plays the keyboards.
Is that the role?
The creepiest guy in the band plays the keyboards.
And Ben Shapiro just sucking people off in the back room.
Fucking groupie. Yarmulke on.
Their road manager.
On while he's sucking dick.
Their road manager's like fucking Paul Ryan. Or it's like fucking, I don't know.
No Collusion World Tour.
No, it's just all that fucking shit. Because when I was watching like John Oliver's breakdown on Last Week Tonight, like the Mueller report from last Thursday, where he was just talking about, it's like, yeah, they let Trump frame the whole fucking thing. Is like, if the report said there was no collusion, then he wasn't guilty. But the thing is, collusion isn't actually a fucking crime.
No, conspiracy is a
Yeah,
concept.
Like, so, if they said no collusion, that means he was, not guilty. But the fact that there's literally lines in there, like, especially when Jeff Sessions fucks up and doesn't bar Robert Mueller from fucking taking over the investigation, and Trump's like, I'm fucked. You were supposed to protect me. We're so fucked. That doesn't sound like an innocent person.
Yeah.
I like the bunch of things like
questions. I immediately like melt down. Like, no, we're not going to survive. It's like you're projecting innocence and confidence with this.
I like the parts where it was This would have been illegal had the person he instructed listened to him.
Yeah.
Well, I know, but that brings up the whole thing where I just joked with my wife and I was like, okay, honey, I'm going to try and get people to murder you for money. But since none of them will do it, technically I didn't try and kill you.
Yeah, I want to see that defense used like when these Florida housewives try to hire these contract killers on these shows to murder their husbands. And it's like, wait a minute, he didn't actually kill him, so therefore I'm innocent. I love that standard of
Pre-crime is a crime.
Well, it's just the same thing with the whole ignorance defense. They didn't know it was illegal. It's like fucking horse shit. They didn't know it was illegal. That's fucking stupid.
I mean, this asshole that went to Yale Law School and has been screwing poor people for the last 20 years and then jumped on board the Trump campaign. Surprise, surprise, he found a home there. He didn't know that was illegal. I'm sure Donald Trump didn't know it was illegal because he's a fucking idiot. But I'm pretty sure his Yale or Harvard trained lawyers, they all knew it was illegal.
Yeah, I know, but that defense doesn't work for anybody in any case. I can't just, like, go shoot somebody in the fucking foot and, like, in a different state and be like, oh, I didn't know shooting people was illegal here in Minnesota. I'm sorry, Iowa it is. I should have probably known. Like, I can't just...
I thought everywhere outside of Iowa was a heaving hellhole that need to be filled with my rage.
Well, it kind of is.
It's like the whole defense is just basically based on, oh, we're too dumb and we're too fucking, you know, we didn't get anybody to comply with our demands.
Well, it's not even like their defense. They don't even have to defend anything yet. That's just what they're selling to the public.
Yeah, basically the we're too stupid to govern gambit, which is paying off big in, you know, trailer parks across America. Everyone's praising the Lord. Oh my God.
Yeah, praise the Lord that the man closest to Jesus that I've ever known is in the presidency. Because a pic that got uploaded the same day was Trump at Mar-a-Lago with, he was smiling, giving a thumbs up with two kids in a close-up pic. But in the background, you could see a chef that looks like he's Samoan heritage, smiling. And then somebody was like, yeah, everybody loves Trump. And it was like, somebody in the comments like, so how come every time there's a person of color standing in the background smiling, it's everybody loves Trump or whatever? It's like, it has nothing to do with him, I don't think. It's like, no one cares.
I've always wanted
Trump
to know.
incidentally takes pictures in front of people working.
I still like his tweet that he sent out about, and this was a long time ago. I'm sure he's probably wouldn't say this now, baby. But it's like, I have a great relationship with the blacks. It's like the blacks. It's like, don't you know that's not how you.
Robert Black, Fred Black.
Well, then the one guy comedian said, unless the blacks are a family of white people that you know very well.
Well, did you see his, this is like two and a half weeks ago now. He came out of supposedly a meeting in front of a bunch of press and it was like, I just had a very good discussion with the president of the Virgin Islands or whatever. And then somebody was like, okay. And then he's like, yeah, we had a great conversation. We, talked about a lot of things. It was very good. I think we made some progress. And then one reporter is like, you're the president of the Virgin Islands. It's a U.S.
Isn't that a U.S. territory?
And then he just like, no.
I know. We masturbated together.
I looked in the mirror and jerked off.
Well, that's what my joke was to my wife when I told her about that. I'm
This
like,
island virgin no more.
it's like he probably just stared at the mirror at himself and said, you're great, Donald. You don't have to change. You're an awesome man. Don't change for anybody. Great combo. Let's go talk to the press now. It's like, fucking goddamn.
Let's wow them with our knowledge of history and geography.
It only has the U.S. Virgin Islands in the title of the fucking.
Now let's divert funds from Puerto Rico to my golf course.
I'm surprised he doesn't think like all of his he doesn't confuse more geography more often, because I know he does, because there's like a bunch of different Trump shit between like the Queen refusing him to stay in Buckingham Palace like most dignitaries do when they visit. but also like there's supposedly going to be like a 2-story tall blow up Trump baby that's going to follow him around Europe while he goes around Europe.
Well, that
and
happened
shit.
the last time he went there.
Well, I know, but now it's going to be even bigger because he apparently hated it so much, so they made the effort to make it twice as big.
It's because if you acknowledge the things that annoy you, people will immediately stop, right?
Yeah, that's exactly how it works.
Or maybe it's all reverse psychology.
Because somebody also posted the White House pledged financial aid for the Notre Dame crisis or whatever. And then somebody immediately tweeted white place, white time.
You would think of that.
It was basically just like, yeah, fuck Puerto Rico. Fuck everywhere else that has anybody besides white people, because apparently we need to donate more, because I think it's what, 800 or 900 million dollars raised so far to rebuild the Cathedral of Notre Dame, even though the church doesn't own it, France does, and they only rent it, and the church has like $8 billion in their savings account, and they don't fucking need the money.
Well, and then all these French oligarchs have all this money to give. That led to a wave of the French oligarchs pledging like $200 million to repair that cathedral, led to a huge wave of protests in Paris. Basically, the argument was, wait a minute, these fucks have enough money, they can give $200 million to this shit, and we're being bled white with taxes and everything. So yeah, that's funny. You can't win for trying.
No, I mean, it's good that at least people gave that much money to something, but yeah, it was criticized up and down from people from either not being for, like, hey, let's help world hunger or cure disease, but let's rebuild a cathedral or whatever. I mean, I think it was just the spire that burned down, basically, right? Like the...
Well, a bunch of the fucking roof collapsed in, but
yeah.
Yeah,
a lot of the big famous stained glass windows were
Intact.
yeah. I didn't want to say fine, but yeah, they were
More intact than it should have been.
Well, anyway, we watched a movie this week.
Yep.
Or did we?
I did. I'm not sure if anybody else did.
I did.
Okay.
Well, I watched Deep Throat. I don't know what else. What everybody else
That was
watched.
not the movie for this week.
Spoilers, the clitoris is in the back of her throat.
Deep Throat. Kind of weird, like, titled song. Anyway, we watched the 1999 Galaxy Quest with a... I forgot what a funny movie that was.
It was a weird thing about like 99, a lot of different comedies.
Yeah.
Because like we watched like a ton of comedies for this feature, and like, I think when we did the 80s, like the entire 80s, I think we did like Ferris Bueller's Day Off and like Ghostbusters, if you want to consider that a comedy.
Yeah.
I would say this is by far and away the best comedic performance by a drug mule
Yes.
that I've seen on film.
That's Tony Shalhoub's barely whacked out performance.
I don't see why. I mean, I know he's on like what, the Wonderful Mrs. Mabel or something.
Yeah.
Like he's good in that show, and I've seen him in that show a couple times, but he doesn't get enough roles for. He's usually a very good actor.
Well, yeah, he has good bit parts, and you know he's had TV shows for a long time. So
Yeah, Monk went on forever, didn't it?
well, I think it was like 7 seasons, but he was also on Wings for like 7 seasons, and
Oh, I forgot he was on Wings.
in the Men in Black, bit parts all over the place. Yeah, he's been around.
Been around.
Um,
I forgot that Sam Rockwell was in this.
yeah, that's like this is the first time I remember. Like, so the one thing I remember is like he was like the star of the trailers. Because there's like the part where he's like screaming like when he sees the aliens, and there's that part where he's like, "Oh, that's not right." It's like you remember Sam Rockwell from the trailers for this movie.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not exactly sure like what he did after this, because I don't think I remembered him till like Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
Yeah, he comes back on the radar for me around a lot of that, but I was thinking him from like Moon and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, this is like great cast and a lot of first part. Like Rainn Wilson's in this.
Yeah.
Really young Rainn Wilson, a young Justin Long.
Yeah, it's hard to believe this was 20 years ago.
Younger Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah.
an alive Alan Rickman.
Too soon or too late? I don't know.
I mean, I always liked Alan Rickman. I was sad when
Yeah.
he died. I was surprised.
Well, I think it was kind of weird with this movie is like he's the only one that embodies this idea of that they're actors that like aren't getting. He's the only one that's like he's depressed that he should be getting that he's been typecast and he should be getting better roles. Like nobody else doesn't really seem to have that like
No, they're just
yeah they're
happy
so,
to
yeah
make a living, not be starving to death. Yeah, but well, Alan Rickman's weird because in this he kind of what is he? He always did sarcasm so well,
yeah
and he was like the Spock character in this, but he was like just really sarcastic and I don't know who gave my favorite performance in this, but I think he was close to it just because he was so just sardonic and
yeah.
it just very it's like oh my god.
And then like another thing I was thinking about is with Sam Rockwell because I like his performance in this movie too, especially like he does a lot with very little. And I was thinking I was watching a Giant Bomb feature and they're watching an FMV video game from like the mid '90s.
Uh-huh.
And like this guy who was just like basically doing Jim Carrey. And I think like in another universe, like people see Sam Rockwell in this is like, oh, he's just copying Jim Carrey, and he never gets a role ever again. Because he has more depth than that, but he kind of is like, whacked out facial features and stuff like that, and really expressive.
Yeah.
But then he also like gets very like mellow too. So.
Well, he was the guy like what his arc is like. He was the red shirt security guy who was only in a few episodes.
Yeah.
And sort of built a life around that. But then when they get taken into the the alien world, he becomes fearful. Like, oh, I'm just gonna die. Like, when is it gonna happen? It's a paranoia. Like he's the character with. I mean, they all have arcs in this, but he's definitely a character with a humorous arc because he kind of overcomes that later on. It's like, screw it, let's just do this. But it was funny to know that like, oh yeah, this guy became very famous after this. Because I wasn't expecting him to be in it until I was watching it and I saw the opening credits. I'm like, Sam Rockwell, Sam Rockwell, and then I see him. It's like, oh, that guy. Okay, he plays that guy.
It's before they dump him on the moon. No, isn't
well, and he's always like the rational in a way guy where he because when they get on the planet, guy just opens the door. It's like, what is the atmosphere toxic? Are we gonna get sucked out of the spaceship? Jack, how do you know what's gonna happen? Just open the door. Which was hilarious. I laughed out loud for that one. It's like, yeah, they never do address that in Star Trek.
Yeah, I don't really.
Yeah, they did censor readings. They're good.
Yeah, they're good.
Censor reading says we won't die, sir.
Well, but this movie's told, it's the point of view in this movie is like, yeah, this is all made up and until it isn't.
Mm.
I did like the weird aliens too that have the disjointed way of talking. I'm trying to think. I've seen some of those guys too in other things. The people that played the
Well, I remember their leader from somewhere else. I thought, but I don't.
Yeah, he's in a bunch of TV shows. He's like the comic relief dad or something like that. He's bald.
yeah.
And Rainn Wilson. Rainn Wilson's not that prominent, but he's like one of the first 4 aliens that you meet. He's the one. He's the one that hands the coke to him in the window.
Oh.
The convention thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because who plays the bad guy, the alien war boss guy? Because he's under so much makeup, I don't know if it's even an actual.
Yeah, it's just some
prominent
British
actor.
dude. I remember. I don't recognize the name, but he's probably been in a bunch of stuff.
Because otherwise, there's the female alien that Tony or Shalhoub's character like falls in love with, and then there's Rainn Wilson, and then like the main peaceful
There's
leader.
I think there's like some guy there's like a bunch of people that are either like on Mad TV or they're like in like some Canadian
Yeah.
like comedy show or something.
Yeah,
like
it seems like they went and got a lot of sketch comedy people for this.
Because other than that, I think the only other characters that are really in the have screen time more than a minute long is like Justin Long's two friends that are with him or
Yeah.
whatever, and that's pretty much it. That's the entire cast.
Yeah. You know, and Tim Allen.
Yeah.
And Tim
I mean, Tim Allen's great as, William Shatner.
he works as basically being William Shatner.
It's probably
I like. I was reading a lot of this movie is beloved by Star Trek actors and fans. Like it's like, oh yeah, this is cool.
Mhm.
It's kind of, they like the movie and then they like the what if element of it.
Yeah.
Because it was this movie. It wasn't a huge financial success, but it was well received.
Yeah.
A lot of people liked it, and it's obtained a
Well,
status.
I remember not liking as much as like if the people project it's supposed to be liked. Like I thought it was
Yeah.
okay, but like I didn't necessarily like, I don't know, like love the movie. I thought it was like funny concept and done very well. Because I know like the Red Letter Media guys, I think they love this movie for some reason. Maybe because like I think immediately like this movie, you think it would just be like, oh, we're just gonna make fun of the losers that like Star Trek, and it becomes
Yeah.
a bit more likable than that.
Yeah, it's not really because
like-
it's not mean.
Yeah, because even like I think the obvious thing is like would have it be like all these people that are like going to all these signings and stuff and have to deal with these fans, that they would hate the fans completely
Yeah.
and utterly, and they don't necessarily do that, but they're kind of like bothered by like this is the only job they have, like this is how they have to make a living.
Yeah, they don't necessarily hate the people that love the show. They just kind of hate their lives.
Yeah.
And like Sigourney Weaver, her character is just funny because she's like cast as a bimbo in the TV series, but in the real world, she's like one of the smarter people.
Yeah.
And she has to like repeat things the computer says. Like, why am I doing this? You hear what it's saying?
It's like, I have one job. I know it's stupid, but it's important.
And then when her and Tim Allen were running through the ship trying to do something because they recreated exactly from the series, it's like, who would design a ship with shit like this? This is insane. Because there's like fire and crushing pistons.
Yeah, it's
It's
just,
like,
yeah.
no need for this. Oh. But yeah, it's
And I thought in the aliens are like an audience unto themselves, and they're basically like an alien race if they're essentially autistic people. Like they don't
yeah, just really naive aliens who have this super high technology, but
like don't understand sarcasm or deception.
yeah, they don't understand lying for some reason, or they don't want to. I don't know.
Well, because to them, it's like you take people at face value. It's like, why would somebody tell you something that's not true?
Yeah.
Which is why they're being subjugated by this alien.
Yeah, the evil lizard man
Yeah, with the
who completely understands deception. And understands what TV shows are. Well, on some level, he does.
yeah. There was plans to do a Galaxy Quest 2. I think that because it would thematically make sense, because like the point of the so at the end of the movie, like they make a second series.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes place 18 years after that. So I think they were working on a Galaxy Quest 2 to actually come out 18 years after the first one.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, but that never came.
No.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
kind
Tim
of
Allen's politics were revealed.
Oh
Now a pariah.
yeah, Alan Rickman's dead. Sigourney Weaver.
Weaver's probably not interested.
No. Tony Shalhoub would probably do it.
Yeah.
Sam Rockwell would probably be game. It's like, sure.
Oh, yeah.
what-
I think Sigourney Weaver would do it. She seems to be open to a lot of things.
I'm just trying to think like what's the last thing she did. I'm just not really sure if she's like big into acting at the moment.
Well, I know she did Paul, but that was years ago too.
Oh yeah.
Other than that, like I know she's been in a couple like smaller films and like voice work. Supposedly she's in all the new.
Oh yeah,
Avatar
she was in
movies.
Avatar.
Oh yeah, that's right, Avatar.
I mean,
She signed up for apparently all the other ones. Like,
Yeah.
wasn't she dead at the end of that?
yeah, that's what people were saying about it so far. But yeah, we'll see. I guess in 5 years when the next one comes out after it's been 10 years already.
What's Doc Martin? She's apparently in this TV show called Doc Martin.
I don't know.
In The Defenders?
Yeah, she was
Oh.
the evil. Yeah,
That's right.
She was in Raqqa.
she's never been evil to me.
Wait, what was the
That was
assignment?
part of Neil
All
Blomkamp's
right.
experimental.
The assignment. That's the one where Michelle Rodriguez is given gender assignment surgery, and she's an assassin. Or
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that movie.
Never heard of that.
it sounds like a great concept. I hear it's not good at all,
It's
but I
like
still
Face
want
Off
to
but
watch
with a
it.
penis.
Faced off with a penis.
That's what it sounds like. to
You're
me.
gonna
That's
face off
that's
with
what-
a penis.
No, I'm serious. If you watch the trailer for that movie, doesn't it just kind of seem like somebody in the executive boardroom was like, "Hey, you like the movie Face Off, right? Yeah. Okay, so what if we do the same thing, but we just switch somebody's sexual organs?" It's like, yes, I'm totally in, Tom. Let's do that movie. Let's get Michelle Rodriguez and Sigourney Weaver now.
It was the guy who wrote Aliens. He directed that.
Fucking really?
Yeah,
Walter Hill?
I believe so.
Yeah, he did. You're right. Weird.
I mean, I haven't seen the trailer for a while, so maybe I'm missing some more nuance to the story, but that's what it seemed like.
Well, I thought, yeah, it was a fascinating concept, but I hear it's terrible. So
Oh.
I'll probably still.
I was gonna say, is it
Watch it at some
streaming
point.
somewhere that it's free to watch?
Yeah, we'll watch that, and we'll watch Peppermint.
Yeah, I just want to see that, just see how bad it is. I know it's not.
Well,
gonna
I
be
hear
good.
people really like Peppermint, but that's because people just like revenge movies. I don't know if it's
I
actually
can't get
good.
revenge in my own life, so I'll live through.
The government's not doing anything. Well, let's get machine guns and start shooting some drug dealers until shit happens.
Yeah, like I said, the last thing she did was Raqqa. That Neil Blomkamp YouTube short.
Oh yeah, I
She
forgot
was
about
the
that.
resistance
I
leader.
don't know, speaking of shorts, did you guys see any of the new Alien shorts to celebrate the 40
Oh,
year
yeah, I
anniversary
watched
of
some
that?
of those.
Some of them were pretty good. There was a couple that were like, oh, okay.
No, I didn't.
Some of them did a lot with a little.
Yeah.
Like you could tell that like none of those they didn't have any money, and they actually managed to like frame an interesting, very short story.
Yeah, I mean, like the greenhouse one was interesting. The mine one was interesting because that was the first one I watched, and then the outpost, like the warehouse, what kind of one was kind of stupid. But I mean, it's all just very short. Like, hey, this is kind of the way this is impacting people, and then different planets and shit. So it makes sense. I have no idea if it's supposed to tie into anything because like 20th Century Fox pops up before a lot of that stuff. So I have no idea if they're sponsoring any of it or if it's going to lead to anything.
Well, I mean,
Probably
they,
not.
They just
The
own
last
the
two.
license.
No, I know they do, but it's. I mean, I'm sure that it's the 40th anniversary of Alien. They're just trying to get more money out of it, so that makes sense.
Oh, maybe they have a DVD set coming out.
But like,
Get all the previous Alien DVD extras, and now these shorts.
Oh wait, oh yeah, Alien, yeah, 4K
yeah.
release. That's
Okay.
what that tied into.
Huh.
Whatever that is. Whoever has those TVs and players.
I do.
Yeah, he does.
I don't have one.
Well, go out and buy one then.
I don't watch TV. It's a real waste of time for me. TV.
Yeah, I thought with Galaxy Quest, I was trying to think of something where it's like it had kind of a Men in Black kind of style to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
And then also there's like this weird sensibility around this time where they were remaking TV shows into movies but they were just doing weird shit with it, like the Brady Bunch movies.
Yeah.
And I kind of like thought like you just cram together Men in Black and then you get Galaxy Quest.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I could see that.
And then also like I I didn't come complete with this yet, but there's like kind of weird comparisons between this and Orville.
Oh,
Where, like,
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
where like the ship design is kind of
Yeah.
similar,
Yes, it is.
and then sort of the comedy, where like I saw like the sort of the problem with Orville is the when Seth MacFarlane stops being his character and starts being Seth MacFarlane, man out of time. It's like, let's crack some jokes about this weird thing.
Yeah, so 21st century jokes.
yeah. I still haven't seen any Orville. I probably should try and watch it at some point.
It's good. I mean, I don't know if the thing is like if you like Star Trek: The Next Generation at all, like it's just that.
Oh.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's a good version of that, but it's not doing anything necessarily new. One thing I really like about it is like they have all these like comedic actors and stuff in it that end up doing a lot of drama because like a lot of it now is more dramatic than it is ever meant to be funny.
Oh, I think it's probably better to be more drama with some funny sprinkled in because that seems.
Yeah, it's an hour-long show,
It-
so
Oh yeah, I always
you can't do
When
you can't do
mention it every
hour-long
time.
comedy in sci-fi.
Well, because I don't want to see a bunch of just like constant bits with Seth MacFarlane man out of time. Like,
Yeah, they do less with it. Like I think like early on in the seasons, there's kind of like more of that. Like all of a sudden, like oh, it's Seth MacFarlane cracking wise. But remember, like there's one episode in the like there wasn't a joke in the entire episode. The whole episode's about like surviving. And it's just a straight up sci-fi, survival story. And it's like oh. Like, okay, so yeah, this doesn't have to be funny anymore. It doesn't have to like do that. It can just like tell a sci-fi story. Or the one I really liked is they find like a giant ship just like floating out in space,
yeah.
and like they get inside of it and see like it creates its own atmosphere, and like there are all these people that are like warring against each other, and they don't even realize they're on a spaceship. And like that was a really cool episode because like whoever like knew how to run the spaceship, like all those systems had like malfunction, they don't work anymore. But like basically like the life support system, like that still works. But nobody knows how to drive the ship because the ship's been out in space for like thousands of years.
Huh.
So
There is a
it's-
model kit for the Protector.
Oh, for the one from this Galaxy Quest.
Yeah.
I heard it was designed after the comm badges and from Star Trek.
Probably. I saw it today at the model store.
Oh yeah.
No, they had a.
Well,
For that.
he's building. Oh, Justin Long's building the model at the end of the movie of the spaceship.
I guess it's one of those ones you build and it's got a lot of magnetic attachments to it,
Huh.
so you can take it apart. Yeah, there used to be that was kind of a thing for a while. No one
You-
really does that
You do some of that with your models, right?
I've started to magnetize some of my stuff because it's just easier to swap out for loadout. I wouldn't say I'm very good at it and done a lot of it, but yeah.
I just remember you had that flag bearer one where you could swap it out with the.
Oh yeah, you had that on the show one night.
Yeah, because it was a lot easier than buying another $50 kit for one guy. I mean, it's not as easy as it should be, but yeah, it's fine. There's people that can magnetize like a whole giant tank and give you every loadout and every, because there's like 2 different gun platform decks to it and different layouts for the guns to be put around, different accoutrements to be put around, like barrels and shit. And all of it's magnetized, every single bit of it. And I haven't gone to that depth yet. I've done one for my brother-in-law where it was an orc artillery piece and did like all the different cannon heads and weapon arrangements magnetized, or tried to. Some of them didn't really want to go, but they slipped on, but most of them did. So that's, at some point I'll magnetize bigger and better things, but right now I'm sticking to smaller stuff. That's all the magnets I have because the bigger ones get kind of pricey. Plus the obviously bigger drill bits and bigger tools and tomfuckery to get it to fit, and all the hollow space in the model and shit.
Yeah, that can be kind of weird.
'Cause I've screwed around more with like green stuff and like scrounging different bits and kind of putting them together to make something new out of it. Because it's called kit bashing, where you just like, oh, hey, I spent $8,000 on this hobby so far or whatever. So, you know, I got all these plastic pieces in the kits that don't actually have to go on there. Oh, I just got them hanging around. Maybe I'll put this gun on this guy instead, or give him a different helmet, or give him wings for no reason because,
Yeah.
you know, it's cool. So, you know, there was somebody's army that I saw on Reddit this week because there's a new codex coming out in September for Battle Sisters, which is basically nuns with guns and power armor that just go around punishing heretics and people that don't believe in the Emperor. But they did a chaos conversion version of it where it's just like this god that's all like faith militant people for chaos gods. And so it's just like guys going around with like robes and fucking flagellants with guns at the same time, and like all these tanks with cathedrals on top of them and shit, and like a guy with like a bunch of flame and spirit hosts swirling around him while he's like reciting from a book and shit. This is all like a legal army because it's all GW stuff because they've started to crack down on that now. You can't be in GW stores without GW models. You can't buy foreign stuff like from Russia and like, oh, I like this head better, or I like this overcoat better on this guy and I'll keep the rest. No, it has to be like all GW to play in their tournaments or play in that store because you have to endorse the product at all times. And it's like, this is fucking
Yeah, nothing bad about that.
Yeah, that's why I'm grateful I have a local hobby store, not a GW store, because not that any of my stuff would necessarily be illegal, but it'd be nice to... There's the... You guys remember Rogue One, where it's like the grav tank or whatever in the city before it gets blown up by the, you know, first Death Star, like, type weapon test or whatever? It's just like this giant, like, grav tank with a machine gun on it in the cargo capacity. But there's a model coming out for that for Star Wars Legion. It actually looks pretty cool. I kind of wanted to convert it into like a fucking tank for my game or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, I'd love to do that, but then I couldn't fucking use it because people are assholes. And it's like, you didn't do... That's not a GW model. It's like, who cares? I spent $50 on it.
It's a gun, right?
Yeah. It's like, I'm not claiming this is a 9-foot penis when it's actually 6 inches, so I don't know what you're bitching about. But no, it's just going on and seeing people's like handmade creations. Because there's this chaos god called Nurgle. It's like the god of decay and like corruption and shit. So basically, you have pustules and like leaking and intestines hanging out and shit. And so there's these guys that just take green stuff and like milliputty, and they take these mirrored glass balls, and they stick them in there. And it looks really weird without the bottle being painted, but when they paint it, it's like these giant pus balls, like shining and kind of like ready to explode type of look to them, and the way they do it and stuff like that. It's like, it's really interesting to see people's conversions and see what they can come up with.
Yeah.
Just like some of your stuff, where it's, you know, the Machining Krieger stuff that, I mean, maybe it's, a lot of the stuff does look like that, but it's just like all this interesting stuff that there's a draw from. It's a shame that, you know, if you have the money and you want to invest the time, you should be encouraged, not discouraged. I mean, it's a good hobby. It definitely expands your creativity and makes you patient and take time and care of something, which is, not a lot of hobbies let you do that. So.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's guys that try to ruin it, but yeah.
Oh yeah, I know those guys. It's like, that's not on the pre-requisition base size it's supposed to be on, or this is not what it would look like, and it's like, well, fuck you for me being creative, apparently. Like,
Yeah, well, there's some people that just strive, the accuracy is their Bible that they read from, and anything that's kind of steps outside of that, you know, circle, they get scared. And it's not a threat, dude. It's just what I'm doing. It's how I'm interpreting it. It doesn't change history. No one dies because of this. It's we're all gonna go home, sleep in bed. But yeah, people just love to hack. There's people that just love to find anything and channel their own insecurities through it.
oh, I know, and it's just, it's the same thing I was telling your parents when I got here and stuff like that, where it's just like, I don't know why everybody can't just agree to have a decent wage and not have to go bankrupt for like 2 or 3 things in life. And
No, I have to
respect
know
each other.
somebody's getting fucked and I'm getting more money because of it.
It's like it's not. It doesn't come down to the question of being communist or not being communist or whatever. It should just come down to the point of like.
Yeah, that's the
respecting
two. It's only communism or
people. Well, that's pretty much what this boils down to: capitalism or communism. Which one are you for?
you can't say socialism.
Well, I mean, I think there's some people. I mean, people come up with ways to justify things. It's I've heard. I've known a lot of different people in my life, from different ends of the economic spectrum, and a lot of people that I get kind of the same story from people that have a lot. It's like, I work hard and I deserve this. It's like, if we all work hard, who's not working hard? If you're going into a job every day and you're keeping that job for multiple years or decades, your chances are you're good at working, unless you're just one of those weird outliers that can, everyone thinks your personality's fun and they don't care if you fuck off all night. No one's not working.
I knew a guy from that at work. I always wanted to get him should have made a podcast for him, because he'd be the perfect host. I mean, essentially, he just ended up he's what Jimmy Fallon is. He had a great ability to listen to people and be fascinated with what they're talking about, no matter how boring it was.
Oh,
he was just
okay.
like, no way. It's like, this guy needs a TV show. He was a terrible warrior.
Yeah, it's fun personality, but just not.
I'm glad somebody else can sum up how I feel about Jimmy Fallon.
His last name was Kopesh, and I named a particularly shitty move after him, and it's like, because it's him, it's like, he didn't mean that, he's just stupid. But it was the go to the bathroom for 15 minutes, take a 15-minute break, and then go to your lunch, and not tell anybody you're doing that. That was the Kopish.
30-minute lunch into an hour.
Oh, people do the Kopish all day long at my work. I see guys go around like they'll talk to somebody in one position for 15 minutes, and they go get coffee for 10 minutes, and they go to a different position for talk 15 minutes, and then they go on their 10-minute break, and then they come back and go to a 10-minute safety meeting, and then go on a 15-minute break again, and then go to their lunch shortly after while doing 20 minutes of work in a span of 3 hours.
Well, I noticed when I quit smoking, and I never really did smoke breaks. That was for break time. But I noticed now that a lot of people are like, hey, I know we're doing this thing or whatever. Can I go get a smoke real quick for 5 minutes? And I started adding that up throughout the day. And it's like, oh, those 5-minute cigarettes, you're fucking off for an hour all day. You need to smoke that much? We're getting breaks, too. Well, you don't need, just wait to break. Have a cigarette then. What are you doing? And it's like, oh, man, I really need to smoke. It's like, no, you don't really need to smoke. You just want to fuck off. It's some people, it's like, man, when I was smoking, I really missed this whole bandwagon of, oh, yeah, you can just ask for a smoke every 20 minutes or whatever.
No, it's amazing how much employers, for some reason, are totally fine with people that smoke just ducking out whenever they feel like it to get a smoke. And it's like, man, if I just told my employer I wanted to go outside and point a gun at my head for 5 minutes, they'd probably tell me to fuck off. But if I were to go inhale a bunch of shit, then totally fine.
Yeah, I just want to go contemplate the nature of the universe for 20 minutes. Quit being a faggot. I want to go inhale carcinogens into my lungs. Hell, go ahead. You need a lighter?
Suck that carbon dick.
But God, just being out there sometimes when I used to work manufacturing and used to go outside for fresh air because it was nice out, and the amount of people would just fucking dick with each other over I mean, yes, I know cigarettes are expensive and shit, and yeah, there's always that one person, regardless of what it is, that'll freebie off people. But goddamn, do they get really mad about one cigarette somebody owes them and shit? And just fucking oh, you didn't give me a cigarette back from last week. Fuck you. And then they just throw cigarettes at each other and shit, and then storm off. And it's well, I guess I didn't know. I knew you're fucking off for 5 minutes. It kind of sucks that you're fucking off. Just that I had an argument with somebody for one goddamn cigarette.
Oh yeah, I think they're $8 or $9 a pack now.
That was the problem at Drill. It was it's they literally had nothing for us, and then if we ever wanted to do anything, it's no, that has to be supervised. So you end up just doing nothing and getting yelled at for doing nothing, and then trying to do something and getting yelled at for doing something.
Yeah. Was that like the Marine Corps drill, Kobayashi Maru?
Yeah.
Just a no-win scenario.
I usually found stuff to do, and but I'm always like, I always worked a couple guys like they always smoked, so it's like, so I'd just go out with them when they went to go smoke, and I remember they're like, there always would be some asshole, like staff sergeant, where like he'd get mad that like the smoke pit was filled with so many people. It's like, all right, everybody who's not smoking needs to leave. Like, fuck you.
I'm secondhand smoking. Get out of my.
It's like, I was like, oh, you're not wasting your time in the official capacity. You need to go waste it somewhere else.
Yeah. Go push a broom around on a floor that's completely clean.
Well, a broom, that'd be too much expectation. You'd have to have like a stick with a towel you found and push that. Like access to an actual maintenance closet, that's too much luxury.
Don't get crazy.
I should probably just get in my good dress uniform and just roll around the floor and taking up dirt. No, there's this one guy at work right now. He's collected overtime for the last 3 weeks, so he gets an hour worth of overtime every day. All he does every day, he takes all the stuff in his same area and just sweeps the same area for an hour every day, even though it doesn't get any dirt than it did the first time he did it. And he just puts, because we have like this red sawdust shit you put down to like stop dust from picking up, which to me makes no sense. Why do you spread dust stuff on the floor from dust not to pick up?
Pre-fuck it up with some dust so no dust gets on it.
And so like if you see him like at the end of his run, like 30 or 45 minutes in, it looks like he's got stuff, but really all it is all the red shit he threw on the floor. But he's like moving all these cabinets and like moving the fucking workbench and all this other shit and like sweeping underneath stuff for like literally almost an hour, just doing that much work just for another fucking $35 a day onto his paycheck. And it's like, yeah, you're stealing from the company, aren't you? It's like, and then he just goes to work at 8 o'clock after that. Like,
Yeah, we get a lot of that weird shit. But I think for this week, I'm going to have to say adieu.
So for next week, did you read Tiamat's Wrath, or did you get completed?
I'm 90% done,
Okay,
according to Amazon.
the Expanse universe. Or...
that's the latest Expanse book.
So we'll talk about that next week.
Yeah, I need to
Unless you don't want us to.
No, you can, because I probably won't remember it by the time I get to the book. So
All right.
I still haven't started Calvin's Wrath. So
Oh yeah, you're a little bit behind.
yeah, I couldn't find the books. I had to order it, so it's
The first one, right?
yeah.
the
Well, I
other
have
ones.
the first one. I just can't find the second or third one.
Oh,
around town.
okay.
I can find all the other ones, but the second and third one are like ghosts. I can't find them. I don't know why.
Well, anyway, this week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
This is Colin.
Andrew?
Goodbye, America.